What is going on, everyone? Thank you so much for joining me and Randy Chavez. Welcome to the TapsTrades channel, where I help keep you up to date on everything Ecomi, Veve, NFTs, overall crypto space. I have a returning exciting guest with me. It's been about 8 months, so help me in welcoming OMI Veve content creator, OMI Whale, America's sweetheart, and possibly the best roommate I've ever had, the Real Randy Chavez.
All right, thank you so much. An honor to be here. I'd like to thank the Academy. It's been such a. I was thinking about this before. There's people that I love to have on multiple times because they just. I feel like humans are like, what's that called? Condiments. Where like I'm like mustard and you're like honey, and we make honey and we just bring out this unique flavor that not a lot of other people bring out to me. So like it's always great to be here. I always love having you on as well.
Did you just refer to me as honey? That could have been the spit take right there. I wish it was. No, I agree, man. And it's been, I've been so slammed. I don't think I've had an interview for like probably 3 months or so. And there's definitely some other content creators I want to get on here, but we were supposed to hop live during the Decon kickoff down in SoCal, but we came back. We were like, oh,
we're so drunk
now at 2:30, but we were hammered, and I was like, I need to go to bed. I don't have time to set up camera. I was like, I'm done.
We were eating those frozen pizzas from the lobby. They were so good. Dude, though.
When you showed up with those pizzas, I was just like, I love you. I needed this.
You should have just stayed up, bro. That's what I did. I just took like a 45-minute nap, and then I bounced. I was an idiot for booking that 6 a.m. flight. I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah, I don't think that was the right move. But yeah, thanks everyone for hopping in the stream. Please hit that like button. And before we get into any of the questions, what I want everyone to make sure that they do is, where do I do this? Wait, there it is. Make sure that you go to Real Randy Chavez's channel on YouTube. Make sure that you're subbed to him. Notification bell on. I make sure that every stream Randy does, I try to hop in because he's one of the most entertaining in the game, as well as make sure you follow him on Twitter.
Smash that like button. Smash it.
Smash that like button. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining in again. We're going to be talking about a lot of things OMI, a lot of things Veve. There's a lot of things happening right now in a bear cycle. But before we begin, Randy, what I normally do is like I have really fast lightning questions of like this collectible or that collectible or something very crypto related. But what I love about your streams is you talk about like life and like deep thought provoking questions. Even hit me when I won in Decon, and I was like, bro, I like it just, you have a way. So I want to ask you Randy Chavez deep thought questions.
Okay.
And then we'll talk about OMI and Veve. So
deep thought lightning round questions or deep thought, because I feel like deep thought and lightning round are like two completely different things.
Maybe like deep thought lightning rounds. That way we can get to the OMI stuff quick. But
okay.
Yeah. So what life lesson did you learn the hard way?
Oh, I mean, I think a lot of people can resonate with drinking too much. But I I had like this liver issue in 2018. Like one of the reasons I went hard on Pokemon cards, like, oh, maybe I'm going to die. Maybe this is not good. So keeping the alcohol in check. We're like going to hospital for stuff. It's like that's probably a hard one.
Yep. Yeah. I completely understand that. I feel like I hit like my stride, like becoming social kind of later in life, and like my early 20s to late 20s, I feel like I was just going out and drinking and spending all my money before I was really understanding I should probably start investing it and not partying and drinking away my money. But yeah, I'm right there with you. Next question is, if you could teach something, what would you teach?
In an ideal world where, everyone's really empathetic and they, all love the environment, animals and each other. I think it would honestly be, it would be Pokemon stuff. Like it would be like a thing for beginners, like, guys, I'm going to blow your mind. I would have different levels, but like beginners and then intermediate people. And then like, all right, this is advanced stuff right here. We're going at advanced theory. And that's just, I don't know. I love that stuff. I think I'd love to somehow make a career out of that if it were possible.
Awesome. I like Tito's response: buy red, sell green. When it's all said and done, would you have said more than you've done? I feel like this relates to all content creators in some way.
Yeah, I mean, probably just because I talk so much. I talk like hours each day, so I definitely. I mean, because also you really want to shoot for the stars, and if you don't get there, well, at least you landed on the moon. So going into saying like I want to do all these things, and a lot of them are insane and they're fantastic, but even if you don't complete all of them, you're at least completing some of them. So I would probably would have definitely said more than I've done in the future.
Got it. And then final, extremely deep thought question: which Nickelodeon cartoon was better, Hey Arnold or Angry Beavers?
So I've had Paramount. I've rewatched both, or I've tried to rewatch both. Hey Arnold is just so good, and like I love Angry Beavers. It was great, but it's just sometimes like it's harder to like get into nowadays. Even though it's still good, it's still silly fun. We were going about it the other day, but Hey Arnold gets really deep on you. Hey Arnold like hits you with those like I don't know. That's what everyone loves to. That's what you're like as kids. Like you just go out on adventures, and it's like that before cell phones. It's like a time warp back. Yeah, I love that. Special place in my heart.
I couldn't agree with you more. Like I loved Angry Beavers. It was just wild, and to this day, I sometimes call people spoot face. But Hey Arnold, you got like a life lesson every freaking episode, and like they just don't make cartoons like that anymore. And I still remember like as a kid watching that Christmas special one, where is it Mr. Nguyen or Win?
Mr. Win.
Mr. Win, who when like Hey Arnold found his daughter, and like you're not even like me as a kid, I was like, God, this is hitting me hard while I'm drinking my Capri Sun.
Yeah, they throw some stuff in there, and I wish that like there's memes about it, but I wish that like parents would come in during those times where they could see, oh, hey, this is actually really good for my kid, instead of coming in like those moments where it's just all craziness and hecticness, like, oh, this is crap, you shouldn't be watching this, because I feel like they miss out a lot of good stuff.
I agree. All right, let's get to the actual OMI Veve questions now that we've got Randy all warmed up talking about cartoons and life lessons. Let's start right off the bat with some heat. So you're an OMI whale, at least most would consider you an OMI whale. I know there's some pretty crazy whales out there, and you're also an OMI maxi. Like it makes up a majority, if not most, of your investments. So
like 90%
feel
plus.
about, say 90%?
Yeah.
There you go. How do you feel about the current OMI price? And are you still so confident being all in, or even potentially going more into OMI?
Yeah. So the price what it is right now, I guess I'll do that one first. It's the price is what it is. You can't change it. Like at a VCon, Gary Vee was speaking, and he's like, listen, like this is still a great project. And he was talking about VeeFriends, but it has some resonance here. It's like, this is still a great project. I'm still working. Like nothing has changed on my end. I can't do anything about the floor price for VeeFriends because that's just the economy. People want to sell them for lower. And the same thing, whether it is Tesla stock, which is down like 45, 50% from his all-time highs, or it's down the NASDAQ or Bitcoin, like everything's down. And as long as the thesis of the company that really runs OMI, which is Veve and Ecomi, as long as the thesis hasn't changed, we're good. Like look at the market cap. We're lower than we were most of last year. Even at the low, in Q2, 3, and 4 at 0.0014 last year, are we 30% worse of a company than we were last year when we didn't have Disney and Marvel? We didn't have all these partnerships. No, that's silly. So yeah, I there's Earth 2 that I'm gonna piss off a couple of Earth 2 peeps, where their crypto will be launched in, supposed to be Q3, but it's probably gonna be Q4, maybe even Q1 of next year, and that is probably going to be at least $2 per coin. It's called Essence, but it's probably going to be like $5 per coin, and it would be, I have 37,000 of those. So even at just $2 per coin, I get an extra 70K. I'll probably take 30% of that. Take a little bit for me, I deserve to get some monies too. And then I would put the rest of that pretty much into OMI if we're still down here, which I don't know if we would. I hope we would. That would burn a lot of. But I'm advising, not financial advice to anyone here listening, but I'm advising my friends and a couple of whales, like, hey, like, am I John Cena? Because like the time is now. And the secret whale group that I kind of mention every now and then, they're up to 1 billion tokens, total. And all my friends and everything. I just got off podcast with my friend Stephanie. I was like, yeah, you need to put everything into OMI, like all your crypto, just put it all in there. And she said, okay. So I'm still very much a maxi.
I love it. And it's funny because like that's where you and I have always differed, where like I'm pretty heavily diversified, but I sold off, a lot of stocks, kind of started building up some cash on the side, and am buying significantly more OMI every single couple of days, and definitely every week, especially at these prices. And I know it's probably going to go lower, but I'm just going to keep dollar cost averaging, and it's definitely lowering my average from where it was to where it is now. But I've been telling my friends the same thing who chose to buy OMI, where I'm like, hey, it's down, but so is pretty much everything else significantly. And seeing and I like and I don't like that. We saw some tweets and things about how they're kind of waiting for exchanges. Like it seems like they're trying to time things now with momentum. So we know the OUP article is going to come out. We know that exchanges will happen. I feel like the exchanges are going to happen after San Diego Comic-Con, because how do you light a fire under like some new users are going to come in, some new investors, and then also that'll be after the next rate hike that we'll see after the next FOMC meeting at the end of July. So I feel like the timing on that could be really good. So the way I look at it is we still have, a month, 2, maybe even 3 to keep stacking up OMI and get those bags bigger. So I'm not a maxi because I'm all in on OMI, but I'm definitely putting more and more money towards OMI, significantly more than anything else that I'm putting into my portfolio right now.
Yeah, I've told you many times, Tash, just go all in, YOLO.
I know you have. I know. I'm gonna see if I can catch you this year, and we'll see.
You have, yeah, like you told me, like, oh, by 2024 I'll catch it. Like, no, you won't. If you're gonna do it this year. do it this year. You have the time frame in which we're probably gonna still be down for a while, and it could be down longer. It could be down the rest of the year. I don't know. I think that the Biden administration is a little too scared of inflation to pump all this money into the market. So I don't think they're going to use that strategy of, hey, midterm elections are coming up. I think it's going to be like, hey, we're about to pass some really cool stuff, but the only way we're going to pass it is if you guys vote for us.
Yeah, and that's what I'm afraid of too, is because of the sentiment. And like I think more like most all now understand that, hey, stimulus checks helped people out obviously during that time of COVID, but it had a very negative effect long term. But I think what could happen is maybe we get another stimulus check or two because of what you just said. And I'm afraid like that's just increasing the pain longer term, but it's an immediate, hey, here's money. You can, bail yourself out because unemployment's going to start going up, and it's just going to have more damage long term. But we'll see what happens there. Zach says, let's talk about this new info of Immutable X having Disney and Marvel on their website. Is this new significant? We'll get there and talk about that. It is not new. I actually did share a video showing that Disney was in their ecosystem probably about 2 or 3 months ago, but they did announce it via or you could see the Disney logo in that recent video. So we'll talk about that. I do like this question. I want to make sure that I'm getting to questions. Cole asks, if you had to bet nothing said on this channel ever is ever financial advice, as we know. But Cole T's question is, if you had to bet your house, Randy, if you had to bet your fridge, will OMI hit 50 cents plus before 2025?
Oh, if I had a house or could sell the fridge, or, I toyed with, getting rid of that, but I don't think I can unless someone comes in with like $50,000. Which might not even be enough. I would say, hey, Aria, I would have, if I had a house, I would have sold it already. Not knowing exactly what OMI gets up to, I would have sold it. Like I would have immediately gone and be like, okay, I don't need this house. I'm going into the place I am now, or this, any type of 1 bedroom, because short-term pain, long-term gain.
Yeah, the markets are super, super up, and I've thought about doing something similar or like liquidating one of my 401ks, but we'll see how things go. But yeah, I don't know about selling a property personally, and it's kind of like I know that would be it's hard. It's like I know it's a risky move, but I know it'd be a smart move too, right? If I sold or I took out like a HELOC on the house and took some of that. Some of the equity that's been built up since I bought, and that would make sense, but still kicking around the idea for sure. And we'll actually talk about the OMI price prediction. We're actually almost there. So before we get there, we're in a bear market and borderline recession. Like we're not quite at recession. We just had the FOMC meeting, and Jerome Powell just came on and said he doesn't see anything that is looking like a recession. But then again, he also said some of the things about tapering back in September, which is when I even did a video, I was like, hey, I'm stacking cash on the side, sold a bunch of stocks because the Fed's not going to come out and say, hey, recession's for sure happening in a couple months. Brace now. No, they're going to try to keep it on stilts as long as possible. So with a bear market in place now, borderline recession, what are your thoughts on OMI's current price and potential if we fall into a recession? How low do you think it could go?
So just a word on his pushback on his thing. Like gas is through the roof. A pound of deli meat turkey is like $14. Like total recession. I feel like some people are just so far removed. But yeah, I mean, there's so few people that hold the token, and there's so few people like me. Like I'll answer this in here. I have 132.5 million OMI. So and there's other people like me. There's a lot of people that have a lot more than me. There's so few people that hold it. The amount of people that would sell right now are most likely people that would need to sell. And if they need to sell, it's most likely because they didn't have much money to begin with. And their selling is not going to be that huge. And a lot of the whales that have bought at 0.005 and around there, whales are whales. They're not going to sell for a loss. So I think that for the collectibles, because there's a finite amount of them, and it's a very immature market. And what I mean by that is, for let's say Pokemon, I'll just reference to that. When you have any dip or recession, whether it's 2020, 2018, the Grail cards, the trophy cards, they stay trophy cards. They stay high. Most Pokemon cards that are just worth $1, they stay worth $1. It's a lot of the stuff that's in the middle that are worth several hundred, a couple $1,000s. That's the stuff that really gets wrecked. But with Veve, we didn't have, I want to say it's immature audience. The Grails, like the Walt or the Secret Spider-Man or Marvel Comics #1, that wasn't in the hands of people that could afford to hodl, that could afford to stay there. It's people that are selling on the way down. But that's because there's only a small amount of some of those, and they're just in the hands of a select few. With OMI, yes, it's in that same few, but a lot of the whales they see that opportunity and they'll buy that up. So I think if we get to 0.0009, if we do get there, we won't be there long, unless we have like some bad actors that really want to like destroy the price, which is fine, burn all that circulating supply. But I know a couple people that are going to go pretty hard if it goes to 0.0009. I mean, they're buying now, and if it goes lower, they're shoot their load.
Yeah, I agree with you there, because I would right now, because of again that stacked up dry powder that I have, I'm adding slowly. Like when I see it go down below 0.0011, I'm adding. When I see it around 0.0011, maybe a little above, I'm adding. And I know it's going to go probably a little lower, especially if we see recession, but I know there's plenty of people who are just waiting. They have buy orders already put in at certain levels, like several at different levels in different varying amounts. So I agree with you. I think 0.0009, yeah, 309 is possible. Again, it did hit very briefly when like Bitcoin just tanked the first time, but now that people are ready for it, I think if we did hit it, it would bounce back pretty quick. And what's crazy is we're seeing Bitcoin go up to 23K, all the way back down to 20K. We're seeing, altcoins shoot up 10% and then dropping another 20%. but OMI's been pretty consistent for a while now around that 0.0012, 0.0011 space for quite some time. And shout out to Pusky, both of y'all. Thank you for the super chat. Both of y'all are rock stars and super thankful with navigating the Veve OMI space. Thank you both so much for all the work you do for the community. Thank you so much. Pusky, that is awesome. Yeah, so just I agree with you that I think it could go that low, and I hope it will, but just so I have my buy orders already put in place. But again, I do agree that it'll pop back up. And one thing you did just say before I ask you about OMI price prediction, one thing you just said that I'm actually curious on myself is I love stuff like this dance competition. We'll get there, Justin. You did just say about how like certain whales are just stacking up certain collectibles regardless of where the price goes. And I'm seeing the same thing, right? Like there's some notable names who you can see they have, 200 of one collectible, 500 of one collectible. And now that the price has dropped, they're still adding those collectibles at these lower prices. So I'm curious what your thoughts on this, because I've been pondering it a while. Are there going to be maybe a couple different types of collectibles where someone has 80, 90% of the supply by the time that we're out of this VV market dip, and they then control like that price of that collectible for the foreseeable future?
So that, 80, 90%, it's a lot of one thing, but they're like, I'll just use Alligator Loki for an example. There's 24% of that is locked up. Like that, it's a good amount, but Dr. Profit already has, like, he said that in December last year, at some point this year when they allow burning, he would take half of one collectible, and he said burn half. I don't know if that means that he would burn everything that he has, or if he would burn half of that of what he has, in which case he would burn 25% of that collectible. He's already got it. So there's already, and he's just doing that for the heck of it. There is I don't know if you remember, you ever went on 4chan back in the day?
Not really. I wasn't much of a 4chaner.
So they would, when the internet just decides to take over something, they could be really funny. They could be really mean about it. Like I went over this the other night. They had, and this is just people that want to watch the world burn, not including arbitrage groups that are going to come in, which I'll talk about in a second. But they have this, in one competition, Taylor Swift is like, whichever school gets the most votes, I'll perform at their school for free. So 4chan's like, all right, let's get this bread. And they chose this random high school in the US, and it happened to be a school for the deaf, as just like a troll, because the school for the deaf isn't going to want to listen to Taylor's, So I don't know what she wound up doing for that particular concert, but they do stuff like that all the time. Like making the new Mountain Dew flavor, like Bodie McBoatface, or I think it's.
I remember that.
So yeah. So they, and that's just people that they're going to go in and be like, hey guys, let's just mess with little girls. Let's just get these Myrmicornos and just burn them all. But because it wouldn't take that much if you get like the whole Reddit army or the whole, a 4chan people is like, yeah, let's just buy them and just burn them so that they can't complete them. But I also think that there's going to be people that are going to come in, whether it's OMI whales when we have OMI to NFT, or people that are just, whether it's hedge funds or that will control like rails. Like they're just going to scoop up the market, because I've seen this done before with Pokemon. I've seen it before, where they go in and they just buy everything on eBay, no matter what the price is, and then it's like those spell walls that you see. They'll set the new price. Anything that goes in under that, I just buy it. And it's, like you could do that with one person. You could do that with one collectible. But imagine having like, 10 people with like $1 million each. That's just like 10 people that have, 8 figures each, but they're going to use, like $1 million for, just for this particular fund. I mean, you already have, I think, CPF or CPK, that is Singapore's main like 401k fund. They're like, yeah, we're going to get into NFTs. And, it's going to be a lot easier of a sell to the public. Say, I'm going to get the first Marvel and Disney NFTs, as opposed to like this pixelated ape that's on the, the karaoke.
I love it. No, yeah, I agree, because you see, like, there's just certain collectibles that people are stacking, especially as they dropped in price, right? Like you said, like even Coras, like we saw Coras and Gold Dragons, like random collectibles just shoot up in price, like little spikes up because a lot of people control a certain amount of them, and then it shoots up in price, and they sell off some, and it goes back down, and they restack. And I see little whale games like that are going to keep happening in the VV market as we're in this down market. So definitely wanted to kind of get your understanding on it.
Yeah, this is right now. Like this is nothing. We have like nobody here right now. Once like, it's going to be a completely different ball game, completely different like fundamentals next year. It's going to be wild. Like the strategies that everyone's implementing this year is not going to be the same next year.
Agreed. Before we get to the OMI price prediction question, I want to make sure I'm staying on top of the chat. So thank you all for asking questions. Bruce asked, do you think we will get OMI to NFT in August?
I hope so. I don't know the timelines. You know, when you have people, so a lot of the time, you know, David and Dan, why I invested so hard in this is because they're so very successful already in all of their other projects that they've done. But so my understanding is that they're not really like devs, like Web3 devs. So their timelines that they've been told, they said like, oh, this is probably what it's going to be. And, you know, a lot of times in tech, things are delayed for a long time. Like Tesla Cybertruck's been delayed for like a year and a half now. And when you have people that are devs like in this space that have been here for a while, like Puddin Cheeks and Brock, that are teasing OMI burn, like insane OMI burns on Twitter publicly, it's like, oh, okay, they probably know something. When does it happen? I don't know, but probably pretty soon. I would say by August would make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's crazy too. Is like you mentioned, you know, like Puddin and Brock. I always think too. I always look at the people who've been in the space the longest and who have some of the largest bags. And Brock's hinted at, you know, what his holdings look like, and don't want to out that. But he was, you know, he's hopped on the stream a couple times, and he's saying like he was buying back at the price of 0.006 because he believes in the long-term vision of obviously OMI and VeVe, but he's been in the space since the early, like well before most of us ever even heard about VeVe or the OMI token. So I looked at people like that who they could have sold at 0.006 or even at 1 cent and made an absolute killing, but they didn't. And that's kind of where, and they're still buying now, right? So I kind of look at those as like, clearly they know and more than we know, and we'll eventually find out what's going to happen with it. So yeah, and then
that's a perfect response, because you have like in science you say like, okay, well, how do you find life? Well, you follow the water. Okay, well, in finance, how do you get more money? Well, follow the money. Where does smart money go? When people that have money, they're not dumb. So yeah.
Yep, completely agree. And when you look at most like large, if you look at like a large stock, how like if you see certain insider buying, people kind of make judgment calls on that. And I wouldn't say Brock or Puddin are, you know, they're not part of the team, but they've been around well before we are. And so I kind of look at that almost like, all right, there's an indicator for insider buying here. That should be an indicator for me that I should be good where I'm at right now. Biddy Man, I did see the infinite burn loop from Essentially Crypto, but it's been a long time, so I can't really speak to it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either. I saw his recent interview with Reese like a month or two ago, but I haven't seen much from him recently.
And then Twitter Lance asks, quick question of Trust Wallet versus cold storage. Trust Wallet's always been fine for me. Like I like having accessible crypto wherever I go. And so I like having it on my phone. Obviously the safest thing is to do cold storage, but
you keep it on your phone?
Trust Wallet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if you, I know you probably have your seed phrase somewhere locked up, but like, oh no, I can't have, yeah, that like, God forbid. I mean, I'm also very public with how much I have and stuff, but like, God forbid I'm ever like actually like kidnapped and they're like, all right, put everything in. There is, I don't even have just one Trust Wallet. I have 5. Like it's not, and they're never on me.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. I was gonna say cold storage is the safest way for sure, and I do have a cold storage, and I have it hidden somewhere not in this room. I keep it safe, and I do also have my OMI and most of my holdings in more than one wallet, right? So if I was ever kidnapped, and because you know I always go to these these crazy, super kidnappy places. And if someone kidnapped me and were like, hey, give me all your crypto, I would just open one wallet and be like, oh, there it is. Oh no, I'm
That's a
robbed.
good, that's a good idea. It's a good call.
But yeah, good question from Lance. So let's talk about, and I'm gonna get some more of these questions here. Thanks everyone who's in here and hitting that like button. We appreciate you, fam. This is always a question, right? And I think based on where we're at on price and the ability to stack more, it needs to be addressed because there's always this glorified or a couple different glorified prices that people expect now of OMI. So my question is, what is your OMI price prediction over the next 5 years from right now, June, is it June? Yeah, June 17th, 2022 to June 17th, 2027.
So I think in 5 years we might be in another bear market because we'll have had our bull market in 2024, the next Bitcoin halving, and the next Bitcoin halving after that won't be till 2028. But I would say, if depending on how much we burn, well, it is all going to depend how much we burn. But I would say, and how much goes into crypto. I think a lot of money, like multiple trillions of dollars, goes into crypto in general. And the markets do get a bit more mature as time goes on. And if you have, let's just say we're a 300 billion. No, maybe because I think by 2030 or by 2029, the two more I think we'll have. I'm going to dial it back. Kathy Wood says Ethereum is going to be a $20 trillion market cap by 2030. Then maybe by 2027, in 5 years, maybe they're half that. Maybe they're 10 trillion. So if we are, even 5% of that would put us at $500 billion market cap. So if we don't burn any OMI, we're over $1. We're like $1.30-ish. But if we burn even 50 billion and we're at 250, then we're at $2. So I think the market cap by that point, let's just say minimum 300 billion, and we could be at $1 if we don't burn any OMI at all.
And that's by when?
That probably by 2027.
Okay. And that's what I'm curious too, is, that dollar figure has been, hey, can we get there by 2025 or 2024? And my thoughts are similar, where within roughly around 6 to 9 months of the Bitcoin halving, there has always been a bull market. And the market's kind of changing now because we have like truly large institutions investing in crypto that weren't in the previous cycle, right? When I joined crypto in 2018, I was actually going to go heavier. And one of my closest friends was like, dude, if you look at the news, if you look at everything, everyone's calling it a scam and all that. And I'm like, yeah, but they've been doing that for a long time. But I listened to him and didn't go heavy. And that was a big mistake, obviously, now looking at it where it was and to where it is now. But definitely one thing I hadn't factored in when I was thinking of if with the Bitcoin halving in around 2024, like maybe 2025, I was thinking that in 2025, it could hit $1. But now, because the price has gone so low, it looks like we're going to recession. I saw someone say in the chat, we're already in recession. We're not quite. If you look at recession numbers, how far it has to fall, we're not quite at a recession yet. It is a huge fall, though. If that does happen, then we have quite a while, even if good catalysts do happen, to where OMI will stay low. And so because of that, people can stack up larger amounts of OMI, right? Someone who had 5 million when it was at 0.008, and if it's at 0.001, they can keep stacking. And so most who are DCAing have the ability to stack up larger amounts, which means as it goes up, they're going to be taking profit earlier than where it was before. So because of that, the idea of it getting to $1, I mean, that's like multi millionaires and some even billionaires, right? So I think that price target has lowered down to where if it hits, let's say 10 to 30 cents in 2025, still a lot of people are going to be multi millionaires. And so that's kind of where I look at it, where $1 by 2027 would be awesome. I definitely think once we hit the stride with where the metaverse is going, with its kind of like higher adoption at that point, with having wearable technology, I could see it sometime around there as well.
Yeah. I can't wait, Maxwell. I can't wait for that to happen. Tim HMC, how's it going?
Thanks all for the
Where
super
where you
chats.
have where we have these, especially with the OMI burn, like let it stay down as long as possible. Could you imagine if we burn like 100 billion OMI in the next year?
That's what I was gonna mention too, actually, because I did like a post, or I posted on Puddin' Cheek's post where he said, remember back this happened in VV like way back when I did like all these remember this, and it was only just over a year ago. Over a year ago, like this time, actually 1 year ago, we were at 6 billion burnt OMI. Now we're at 58 billion burnt OMI. And I remember someone actually reaching out to me about this too. And they're like, well, yeah, the price is down, but what happens if VV collectibles are going to continue to not sell out? Won't that mean less is burning? It's counterbalanced, right? The price is way down. And so even if the VV collectibles aren't selling out every single time, it's going to probably still be around at least 50 billion burnt every single year. And it took a while before we were having 3 drops a week. So now we're doing more drops, whether they're all selling out or not. And the price is lower than where it was before. So still somewhere around 50 billion should be burning every single year.
I also think that that's where, when we have, I don't know how many thousands of people in here, I think once San Diego Comic-Con happens and we have this giant, whatever new partnership it is, that we're partnering with, and they start to do a little marketing. I love, part of the reason why I love VV is because they don't do, it's like Tesla, they don't do marketing. They have other things to spend their money on, and other people will probably market for them. And I mean, if we don't have buybacks, and which won't really affect the circulating supply that much, a lot of that will be just come from the burning mechanisms. But then, well, what do they do with those funds? Well, I don't know how much was originally intended for buybacks, but that's probably tens of millions of dollars in the war chest ready to go if they wanted to market. Again, which they won't need to, but they've got a lot of extra money that can be doing, hey, there's me.
Oh, there you are. Oh, wait, hold on. I was going to, while you were talking, I was going to share, where is it?
The video where you're talking?
No, I was going to share while you were talking about like all the things that are still coming, like marketing. I mean, there's so many things that haven't been dropped yet, haven't been addressed. And like, we know about all these things. We've known about them for a year, or at least most of them, but there's so many things still coming where I feel like most crypto projects or NFT projects, even, you have sometimes a roadmap and it's X amount of things, and you don't, and like a lot of those times they don't even hit on them. But like when you look at like Cardano or Ethereum or most of the larger crypto, they have maybe like 2 things on the calendar, and they're usually within 1 year, if not longer, right? We're still waiting on Ethereum 2.0. It's been pushed out for, I think, now 3 years. Chainlink 2.0 has been pushed out. Cardano, they just launched smart contracts last year, and they were talking about it for over 4 years, right? So things like that, when you compare them to the broader large crypto, OMI, I mean, it hasn't had utility for over a year now, right? Like we're still waiting on that, but it kind of makes sense if you really want to stack it up towards a larger crypto project and where it can go to. It's right in line with the other projects.
Yeah, and if you have something like VeveVerse is going to be like, I don't know how you got land on Illuvium, right?
What's that?
You got land in Illuvium, right?
I do. I have 3 plots of land, and I'm trying to get a 4th for a mega city, but someone sniped it and they are not listing it. So I know I'm gonna have to pay a pretty penny, because that was very smart of them.
Yeah. So the reason why I asked is because a lot of people in this space happen to buy that, to get in, because there's been some leaks that people are saying like, hey, I played the game and it's pretty fun. It's not like Axie, it's not like these other games where they're like, yeah, you're making money, but the game's kind of boring. Apparently it's a good game. And people that are in the space are getting in. Now, if there was, I've been getting people into Earth 2 for a long time. For one of the things that are working against anything, whether it's Frogland, it's Illuvium, or Decentraland or Sandbox, is that they're all new and they don't have a lot of this IP attached. But and I'm not saying we have, every single company that we're partnered with is going to have like their own metaverse inside the VeveVerse. I think that'd be a little ridiculous, but a lot of them will. And where do you want to get land? I mean, do you want to get land in, let's say if I make Chavez Topia or make Chavez, the Chavez verse, you want to get land in something that you know never really heard of, or do you want to get land that's probably going to be next to, I don't know, in 1980s land where we have, you know, the Ecto ones and we have Ghostbuster land and the DeLoreans, or I think people would want to get land there. So I think with VeveVerse, you know, Illuvium raised 72 million, I think, and they only released a certain amount. I think they could definitely release more if they wanted. VeveVerse will probably, it's not that they're going to raise that much, because if we pay an OMI, it's just all going to burn. But if they wanted to, they could probably 3x that.
I completely agree. That's my sentiment exactly. I mean, I love Illuvium. It's GameFi though, right? Completely different space from where Vivi is even targeting, but I love it. I mean, they just upgraded Unreal Engine 5. It is the cleanest looking game in blockchain today. It's, I mean, I can talk about all day about Illuvium, but we're going to stay on Vivi and OMI for now. But I agree with you that when you look at land from like a broader spectrum, would you rather have land attached to a project and kind of hope that project continues to do well? Or would you rather have land in like a galaxy far, far away, or an actual Disney World or Marvel? Like that, I think, has a broader reach for most. So completely agree with you there.
And if we do, let's say they do half and half. Let's say Vivi decides to not keep up to their word and say that originally 100% or almost 100% of the OMI would have been burned. Let's say it's half. Let's say they raise 100 million, but then, you know, they only burn half the OMI, and we burn $50 million worth of OMI. At these prices, that's 43 billion in one go. OMI that's just gone forever. So I think that would be, and again, not that they'll do it at these prices. They might wait till next year until OMI's up and, you know, say we burn half that or whatever. But that's a lot of OMI burn in one day. That would be insane.
That'd be absolutely insane. I'm catching up on the chats here. We're talking about how someone broke in their house and they drilled his feet. Jeez, they took everything.
Rip and pasta.
Thank you so much for the super chat, Tim. Appreciate you, fam, as well as Ecomi Skywalker, my favorite OMI YouTubers. Appreciate you. It's Orbis time from Justin. Justin's just a supporter of all of us, man. He's doing the Lord's work for all of us. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I love him. He'll like I'll post a video and then I'll get one comment from him. I'm like, oh, and I'll respond. And then you can tell like he's commenting as he's watching the video, because like 2 minutes later I'll get another and another. I was like, yes, keep them coming, girl. Keep the comment.
I love it. He's like, comment. I'm like, as he's watching, which is great. Before we get to the next question, I think this is actually one that should be addressed, because I'm not sure who's really discussed it yet. But Jack, also another awesome community member. Thank you, Jack. With the Celsius crash, are you too nervous about Ascendex and staking on exchanges? I think this is a great question, because I did see a tweet from I Hate Society, how he got locked out of his Ascendex account. I think he has like 20 million OMI on there or something, and he's staking it. With the Celsius crash, I mean, first of all, you have to understand how Celsius differs from an exchange. It is different, right? How you lock up on Celsius or like Compound or different things like that versus an active exchange that you're staking on. But I am nervous about certain exchanges, especially ones that I'm not sure where Ascendex is housed. Is it in China? Is it Singapore? Is it UK? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I know that you can stake on there if you're Canadian. I know you can't do it in the US, but I don't know where they're housed. But yeah, I could have had a couple of people where I like, so some people they're like, yeah, just use a VPN. I was like, guys, I've seen this before, and it's happened to I Hate Society, where
but he's not in the US though. And I actually am staking via VPN, but I've been kicking it around too, and I'm thinking about taking it off. And I already did check before if I could, but because of some of these things and seeing his post, I'm thinking about unstaking and taking it off myself.
Yeah, I would not. Yeah, I would not be on there. Just because like, and I imagine will probably get their money eventually. But if they find out you're staking and you're not supposed to be staking, yeah, they probably have the rights and be like, you're not supposed to be doing this. We're freezing your account indefinitely. Yeah, that's not worth it to me. Even if you get 10% APY. Yeah, I mean, so exchanges in general, it's hard. I would You know, I'd rather have the crypto on me because at least I know it's safe.
Yeah. I mean, I agree there. It's kind of a, even if you are able to stake on it without a VPN, if you're in a different country, there's a lot of things happening right now. So there's a lot of fear, and you never know how how like an exchange is also investing their funds, right? How they pay people out on that. So I'm not familiar enough with Ascendex to really speak to it, but there's definitely some fear out there. So I would definitely say careful on where you store your money at this current time. What, and I think I ask everyone this, but everyone always has different answers. So I'm curious, what brand or licensor are you most excited to come to Veve? And obviously we can speculate here.
Yeah. So it'd be more for VeveVerse. But it'd be Nintendo, because I would love to have land next to Princess Toadstool's castle and watch like a fireworks show at night. I would love to be in space in the Lilac system, where watching dog fights with Star Fox and Star Wolf overhead. Like, even if that's not a mini game, which I think that would be great one day. Just
dual barrel roll.
Yeah, just spectate and watch people like do that. So like I mean, entertainment in general is that's what a lot of humans want, and so I think getting land in like in Kirby's Dreamland, or in in the DK jungles. I forget where, in Donkey Kong Country. That would be, and I know that's like one of the obvious answers, Nintendo and Pokemon. Oh, I love that. I would spend so much OMI on that. It'd be stupid.
I mean, I'm right there with you. I think Nintendo would be amazing. The Pokemon company would be amazing. Obviously, like there's been several articles written about it. Whoever gets Pokemon arguably first wins NFTs. I mean, it's hands down, you win. And of that little asterisk that people keep saying, like, well, I can't see the metadata, so how do I know the real NFTs? Or I can't sell them for crypto, which you can soon. We just found out. Like, that will be null and void, right? At that point, it's just like insane. But me personally, I'm most excited for anime, because I need to wrap my head around what is one of the verticals already. And then we know that both Dan and David are huge anime nerds themselves. And we just know, Dragon Ball Z, Death Note, everything that could come, Naruto, anything that could come with anime is going to be a whole nother side of potential users that we could bring in. And then you tie in localization, the ability to have the app in different languages. To me, that just has a huge effect of its own that is possible, hopefully the end of this year, if not sooner.
Dude, I can't wait for like the TikToks. Like, if we get like anime stuff and suddenly they get, Lucy Heartfilia from Fairy Tale, or they get these like voluptuous women. I can't wait for the TikToks to be like, hey bro, what you doing? Oh God, what are you doing with your AR NFTs? What is this?
I'm just playing my collectibles, Mom. Don't worry about it. Close the door.
Oh, that's gonna be so great.
There's already like when you have like some of the Harley Quinns, you see like people showing the angles and stuff. I'm like, oh man, there's already been some of that happening. I wonder how they're gonna, and we'll talk about the VeveVerse more in depth coming to some of these questions, but I'm wondering how they're gonna have to have basically like AI humans to monitor for like harassment and some content like that, because we also have people who are under 18 who are in the app, and some people don't want their 12-year-old to see some of the things that you could be creative with your collectibles. So definitely food for thought there. I did just mention it, so I'm curious, what are your thoughts around not being able to see the metadata? This is something that I fight internally with this, because I am a strong believer in not your keys, not your crypto, which that Veve's a centralized app. The VeveVerse will be a hybrid, centralized with decentralized assets. And, our collectibles right now, they could be snatched away from us, even though that would be, absolute suicide. But we've seen things like that happen, right? So what are your thoughts of still not being able to see the metadata? And obviously we can see on a Mutascan, but thoughts on the historical all the way back to GoChain, and just having the ability to see that data directly on the collectible?
There's a lot of people. I saw it. It's really weird, but I'll go with the least the least complaint that I see on this aspect. There are a couple people that don't think that VeVe is centralized enough, where they're like, hey, listen, it should be up to VeVe on what you list your collectibles for. Like, people buying them for 60, so I'm buying these blind boxes, let's say the lightsabers, and I'm losing money because people are selling them for 30. VeVe should fix that. It's like, okay, so I don't. That's where the free market is. So that's why I'm glad they are decentralized. But then the bigger argument is that a lot of people go and say, yeah, crypto was made for anonymity. Crypto was made to be like, to be not centralized and to be like complete wild, wild west. And I agree. That's what it was made for. And we've had a great, fantastic 10-year run of that. We've had a decade of just it being absolutely insane, nobody paying taxes. But I feel like it's like that scene in I think it's Return of the King, where King Theoden of Rohan is talking to everyone's like, I will not risk open war. And then Aragorn with his pipe is like, open war is upon you, whether you would risk it or not. That's like, oh, like, this is coming. Like, regulations are coming. You cannot stop that. Yeah, you could maybe move to like a next project or maybe a new technology to kind of stay ahead of them. You're never going to get mass adoption that way. Mass adoption will only come when grandmas can feel safe about putting in their credit. Like back in the day, and Taps, let me know if this was your any of your parents or grandma or whatever that said you wanted to buy a shirt or you wanted to buy something really cool online. Mom, you could just put in your credit card. And they're like, no, I don't feel safe putting in my credit card. That's how people get their stuff stolen. That's how they steal your information. And now nobody thinks twice about putting in their credit card because it was mass adopted. The same thing is going to happen with grandmas, people over 50, just everyone in the world, because of what happens with hacks in Axie or hacks on OpenSea. One, it's too complicated AF, but you need the centralization to make sure that if there are any bad actors, hey, they could rectify it. So I'm 100% okay. Like as far as not being able to see the data, we'll see that at some point. Like that'll happen. It should definitely happen.
I completely agree. My mother never gave me her credit card, let alone let me buy anything online or buy majority most things. But yeah, I get what you're saying with that. And I mean, you look at any of the metrics. I actually showed this on one of the video too, just because you're talking about it, like I have it on the screen. I'm like, oh, actually this relates. When you look at something like gaming, right? Like Sandbox and Decentraland killed it this last year, right? Axie Infinity crushed it. But compared to the mass majority who can just hop on a console, not really, right?
Yeah.
And like that's because, like you said, like your grandma, your dad who's 55, 60 years old, whatever, some will actually adopt and create a MetaMask account. But for others, it's still so nuanced. It's still so difficult. But hopping on a console or on a streaming app or anything like that and just punching in a credit card or linking a bank account, they understand that. That's like you said, become widely adopted right now, right? Like everyone syncs other apps up to their bank account to filter in and out money. And so because VeVe is that hybrid centralized with decentralized assets, they have a bigger reach. They have a bigger threshold for going higher than any other project can that is exclusively decentralized, as much as I love decentralization.
Yeah, I think in the next couple of years, as a lot more people get into this, the government's going to be like, okay, we need like a measuring stick or what is a good metaverse company, crypto, and I think VeVe can be it. I think partly because Disney and Marvel and USPS are not getting into bed with people unless they're 100% compliant, and they're going to be scrutinous as mother flappers while making sure they are. And I think VeVe's in a very good position. I don't think there's any other company that is even close to what VeVe's accomplished.
I agree, and like that's something that they've said is they're being very careful with OMI and the plans for OMI, and also the ability to cash out an app changed from the original kind of goal early, right? But they've said time and time again they want to do everything in their power to make sure that OMI is not seen as an asset. And we just recently had that big meeting with a couple large figureheads. And they said that they're going to be putting a lot of parameters and a lot of governance in place to basically determine which cryptos will be assets, which ones securities will be securities, not an asset. Security, they're all assets, will be labeled as securities, which ones won't, in them taking this amount of time it's because they saw the writing on the wall and needed to make sure that, hey, we could probably shoot this thing out and have it moon, and then we're then paying for some of these regulations and everything later, and then it goes down, and then maybe it never rebounds back. So pulling the reins back, even though it's frustrating in the short term, was the right move as we're seeing more regulation coming in. Thank you so much, Sody Pop, for the super chat. Taps, did you see that Final Fantasy VII stream? How hyped are you on Crisis Core Remake? I have not actually seen it. Shout out to Sody Pop too. Great channel, great guy. Really nice dude in person too. I have not seen it. Also, chances of Final Fantasy on Veve. Oh man, dude, I would lose it if I could get a Sephiroth. Oh man, I would. I mean, I have a freaking 6 foot tall Buster sword in every single one of my videos behind me, right? So I'm a huge Final Fantasy nerd. I don't think it's impossible. I think it's just going to be difficult, right? We already know that it's difficult to get a lot of these anime licensors. And then we know gaming, we haven't seen gaming come out yet, even though they've announced Capcom way back. But I know that Square Enix is difficult historically. I would love it, but I think we're going to see a couple different games like Monster Hunter and Street Fighter and a couple others before we see something like Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah. Oh God. That talk of gaming, where again, Immutable X made that post. Hey, all of this stuff in Web3 gaming seems to make sense. That this is the marketing. That's what they're doing.
That's why I actually bought more Immutable X token last night, and then I saw that and I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure my investment in this layer 2 is going to do well, especially with how their ecosystem looks. I mean, they have a big growing GameFi, obviously with like Illuvium and Guild of Guardians and tons of others. But then they also have NFT marketplaces like Token Trove, Veve. They have OMI on the collectible side, Tom Billieu, Artifact. Well, Artifact got bought by Nike, but tons and tons that's already building out super fast and really in an area that needed it, right? GameFi and play to earns needed refinement, and the fact that Immutable X is doing that, they're going to absolutely crush as a layer 2. And this is speculative for sure, but I think that at some point they will overtake Matic Polygon as the top layer 2. But
that's a bold claim.
And there's Arbitrum and there's other ones too. But when you think about what people invest in, it isn't always something that's DeFi or a utility app or things like that. People like games. They like distractions from reality, right? And look at what Immutable X is building out and leaning into with video games and metaverse and community, and then linking to all these other open NFT marketplaces, not just having one open currency systems. I see them for sure catching up and surpassing Matic, in my opinion. Arbitrum is going to be probably right along there too, depending on what they do, but it's still pretty early.
I mean, it's all great. Like I love each one for different ones. Like Matic, Polygon, partnered with Earth2, and partnered with a bunch of people. And if you talk to Kill Patterson, I had him on the podcast a couple months ago. He only invests in 3 things: OMI, Immutable X, and Ethereum. Like big on those 3 things. And because Immutable X is every single day, their partnerships, like the announcements, like on their Twitter. Whoever's in charge of their Twitter deserves a raise. They're just firing things up every single day. It's amazing.
I agree. What new product do you think could be coming to Veve that they've hinted at? And who do you think is the new San Diego Comic-Con partner?
A new product? I don't think it would take too much to have like a mini game. Like, I don't know if you ever played Pokemon TCG, like the trading card game. Yeah.
On the online version?
Or the game back in the day, on the Game Boy. It's like you're playing real life, but it's just on the Game Boy. It's just a card game where you get a certain amount of cards, and you can, and there's battle counters and whatever. I don't think it would be too hard to do like a simple card game, or even just like something like. I mean, Brock's game is really fun. The fiches. I don't know if you've played matches on there, but I think it would be really cool. If, yeah, like do we have Mattel, or is I don't know if we do or not. I know it was like they've teased it or they've discussed it, but they just simple games like if we would get like Fisher Price, like, oh hey, here's Connect 4 on Veve, here's Checkers on Veve, and then like Brock's doing with fiches and just putting in like if you could do wagers with OMI. I cannot wait to get drunk with Mr. Pags one night and just start betting like $100,000 per match of OMI, like just on fiches. I'm not good at that game, but that is so fun. That's so interesting. So the partnership for San Diego Comic-Con, I don't know. I toyed with three things, I think, because I don't think it would be Star Wars because we just had a Star Wars celebration. I don't think it would be Disney because Disney, they already have their D23, so I don't think they would partner with them for a Comic-Con, a giant thing that's not theirs. Marvel and DC are kind of the front runners. I think DC is less likely because they're all about pumping into Batcals and heroes right now. Marvel would make sense. It is a comic convention, but it's just like that's not going to be a big surprise. It's not going to be a big. And you just did a video on it like yesterday. Yep. Love seeing your face every time you was like, oh, yeah. But I think some outliers is that, well, I don't know if you've ever seen Burn Notice where they're like, hey, we need to we need to go and get in touch with like a big heroin dealer. Like, oh, well, this person's the biggest. Okay, well, who's the second biggest? Because we don't want to be too crazy. Okay, well, the second biggest would be this guy. I think for this, maybe we don't partner with the biggest thing like comics, but what is the second biggest thing on those? It's anime, and Dan is following Crunchyroll and Funimation on Twitter. And they just had their Japanese Discord unleashed a couple months ago. I think it would be perfect timing for a new medium like Funimation or Crunchyroll to be on there. Other smaller things, I think Jazzwares for Jeremy Padawer, who's going to San Diego Comic-Con, which is why I want you to go. Comment down below if you want to get taps to Comic-Con. Let's guilt them into it.
I've cosplayed for years. I really want to go to San Diego Comic-Con. It's overlapping with a friend's bachelor party.
Heck, 50% of marriages end in divorce.
I'm torn. I'm torn. I definitely want to go. I think it'd be absolute blast. I know tickets are like $2,000.
Oh, it's insane. It's horrible.
Yeah, but hey, I'm not saying no. I'm saying I'm thinking about it. But yeah, I think Jeremy Padawer makes sense. The only reason why, and I'm obviously massive toy brand. The only reason why I think it would makes the most sense would be Marvel or DC, just because they said that their goal with San Diego Comic-Con was to get as many new users into Veve or bring awareness to Veve, right? Obviously, working with the two biggest names in comics would have that effect. The other area that I thought was like toys, right? Like they've talked already about how they're going to be working with toy manufacturers. So why not work with some of the largest, which, obviously Squishmallows and Jazzwares would make sense. But I'm also thinking Funko Pop or Lego, like little areas like that. But there's so much speculation, but I'm always curious to like hear other people's thoughts around that.
Yeah, I would love Jazzwares just because I love Jeremy Padawer. He's so cool. I ran into at VCon, and I also think that it would be great because all of my friends that are girls love Squishmallows. They're like addicted to it. Like, Chavez, really? I only have $30. Yeah, and they're like, but I'm going to the mall. I need another Squishmallow. Like, no, you don't, Megan. You don't need another Squishmallow. And then it's like, I did it bad, and they send a photo. So yeah, that's a lot. And there's TikToks made about that. It's your buddy.
If you need marriage advice but never financial advice, go to Randy Chavez.
I've never been married. I got close once. There's just it's not gonna. I don't know. I remember this time where me and my friend Will were driving back from someplace, and we have somebody that we were passing by somebody that's pulled over, and he rolls down the window. It looks like the cop is about to give him like a blow test. And so my friend Will rolls down the window. He's like, "Don't do it, buddy. Don't blow." I feel like people that are about to get married is like, oh, it's such a risk. And now again, I've never been married. No one will love me. But I'm just so scared like one, that I'll mess it up because that's just, you know, what I do. And then two is like, oh man, there goes half my money. Like if I, but I don't know. I hear older people talk and they say that the most important social connections they have are their kids. And people tend to be happier later in life. They have kids because of that social connection. So they're apparently really good things about getting married. So don't take it from me. I'm just a young derp.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Like I've never been married, never been engaged before or anything. But when I think about marriage, I think it's like you really need to spend a lot. And I'm not hating on anyone who, you know, maybe met someone, were engaged within, you know, 6 months, a year, or whatever. But I think you really need to spend a lot of time with someone to really see every little bit about them, like live with them first, spend years with them. You know, are you best friends? Do you have the ability to bring kids in the equation, like know them through and through? And then and trust them, whether you're the one who has more money or you're the one who has less money, and then realize that that's going to become our money. Like little things like that. I think that is the kind of mentality you need to get into before you go that route. Like one of my friends, his dad is from Liverpool, like, you know, the higher part of England. And he told me, he's like, why do you think in UK, like most people, I think the average marriage, like age is around 28 or 30. He said a lot of people get married well into their 30s because they want to have fun in their 20s. They are still learning about themselves, still figuring out their wealth. They're traveling. And then they get married when they're 28, 30 plus, because that's when they're, first of all, already mature enough to really understand how it becomes an our life and not my life. And then also they've kind of been, okay, like I've been with this person. They understand me. I understand them. I'm able to make this step now that I'm at this maturity level in my life.
To absolutely marry me.
Get on your knee. No.
Someone's gonna clip that, and that's gonna be like a Taps and Randy ship. They're gonna call us Raps Shades. I don't know.
The real rap Chavez. Yeah, so you got marriage advice on first marriage advice on a TapsTrades stream.
Yeah, things just go weird places when I'm on podcasts.
I love it. I think last time I was on yours, we ended up speaking about Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster for 30 minutes, and aliens and all that. We'll get there. We'll get there. So, how do you feel about MTL announcement recently and the ability to cash out into crypto? Obviously, do you think we're going to have it by the end of this month? And if not, what are your thoughts around that, with, you know, some of the sentiment being like, hey, if they delay one more time, I'm going to punch a hole in my wall, is some of the feeling. And then also, like, now that they've announced the ability to cash out into Ethereum, USDT, Bitcoin, other crypto.
I wasn't expecting them to say, hey, cash out into crypto right away. And I was like, oh my God. Oh, like I felt like that Ron Paul meme, like, it's happening. But so, I mean, I don't think everyone will be verified, because again, you have to pass KYC. So I think there's a decent amount of people that are not going to pass KYC. So maybe, I don't know, 50-60% of people have it, you know, or at least have the option to do it, because it's on veve.me. Like right now, like it's not, you can't click it yet, but KYC is right there. You can go see it. And in the, you know, if they say, okay, well, it's delayed, like what's it going to delay, like a couple weeks? Like I'm pretty sure that they wouldn't, they know now, because they got so much strife from delaying for so long, they wouldn't say something unless it's really, really close to happening. So however many people get it, you know, by end of June, cool. You know, other people might just have to wait. That's fine. People are making moves now, though. People are selling things at, like, in this dip, and they're making things go low. And that's like a bunch of my friends. Like, so a buddy of mine was part of that secret whale group before. He just got, what did he just get? Oh God, he just got a bunch of them. 40 Skywalker lightsabers. Got another Steamboat Willie. Got 2 Supermans now. He had just bought another whole set of Golden Moments and a Ben Riley Ultra Rare. Like, people are going ham. It's like it's a whale feeding frenzy. What I'm really curious about is that people, and I think ultimately this is a good thing. I think this is a net positive, where people in general, and maybe it's just America, they're so unimpressed with things. Like a doctor or like scientists could be like, okay, we just eradicated this disease. Like this disease that was debilitating to people no longer exists. And people are like, okay, what's next? This is what we pay you for. So, and that forces scientists, forces people to be like, okay, now we got to work on the next thing. So I'm really curious to see what people complain about next. And then they can no longer say when MTL, what's the next thing that everyone's going to, have that mob mentality about?
No OMI utility, no metadata. Like it's just, there's always going to be something to fall back on FUD. It'll be replaced with new FUD, right?
Yeah.
And like as they deliver more, the expectations go higher. But yeah.
No, okay, so it's metadata and OMI utility. Okay, well, OMI utility has been teased a lot. We haven't gotten the article yet, but I think why they said we're going to be able to cash out in 5 cryptos. It's going to start with Ethereum, Bitcoin, and USDT. Why OMI was left conspicuously absent, I think, was because they're saving that for the OMI utility article. I also think that maybe that could be a staking thing. Like, and here's what I love about like this burn, the potential, and they might not do it. But if they say, hey, like it's 10% to cash out, right?
Yes, yeah, that's what they said a while back. So I haven't heard anything update on changes or anything.
So let's say they could do it this way. They could say the 10% to cash out is, we're going to take 10% of that. So 1% of your total cash out. Let's say you cash out, $10,000. They take 10% of it, so they take 1,000, and they take 10% of that. So they take $100, and they burn OMI with it. From like the circulating supply. Like let's say if they do that on 1% on every transaction, out of that 10%, 1% of that 10% is gone. I think if there's 124 million gems in the app right now, that won't all go. But let's say people go crazy. Let's say people start taking crazy pills and they lose their minds and they cash out $100 million all at once. Okay, well that's $10 million that goes right back to Veve, and then potentially $1 million out of that will just go to burn, which is a lot. It's a lot of money. So I think that you get, it's hundreds of millions of OMI being burned from circulating supply right away. I think that they have a thing to do with staking as well. Like, okay, well, you only have to pay 8% if you stake $50,000 worth of OMI, or you only, to cash out, or you only have to stake whatever. Veve would probably eat that no problem. They're like, yeah, we'll only take 5% if you're staking $50,000 worth of OMI. Why? Because the owners that like all of the people that own this company, Dan and David, they have the biggest OMI wallets. They have every incentive, and they're making so much money with Veve. They're making so much money. They have offers out the yin yang, people wanting to give them money. They have money on the side. They don't need to sell, but they have every incentive to go and say like, hey, to sacrifice some money on one end in order to make OMI go boom. And I think we'll start to see some of that plan over the next couple of months.
I want to hone in on what you just said there. Yeah, they have so many offers or outreach on people wanting to give them money. And I like that they addressed it on how on the recent community update, Alex G is like the first thing he said, how there's a lot of talk about Veve dying because they're not selling out in 1 second, like they have for the past 8 months, which is insane that it was that long of a run. So, is Veve dying? And like Dan kind of chuckled, the amount of money they've produced in 1 year, as well as the amount of money people are trying to give them, as well as licensors who are still just sitting in the wings. Like the idea that Veve is dying or is anywhere near a cliff. I feel like people don't understand. It's not about if a full set of 30,000 collectibles doesn't sell out, and if only 20,000 of them sell, that's still a lot of money that's coming in, especially if it's a comic that no one really cared about and people are still buying it, right? Like the fact that they're selling, and I don't want to talk crap about any recent comics, but if it doesn't do really well in real life and people are still, 10,000 people are still buying it, that shows that there's still demand and that they're still making money no matter what they put out, right? And obviously we want good quality, but yeah, it blows me away that people think in such limited terms sometimes and don't see the broader picture, which is crazy to me. But Yeah, I mean, and I agree with you that it's there's just so many things that they could do, and you mentioning that, hey, if you have X amount of dollars that you're staking in OMI, like you could have it, 8% MTL. I didn't even think about that you could have the ability to take less of a hit depending on how much you're staking. And the fact that we haven't seen that OUP article, we know there's going to be additional tiers, and now the price of OMI is down. So a lot of people aren't going to even qualify for the second tier or the third tier that we've already seen, but we know there's going to be higher ones now. So I know when that article comes out, there's going to be a peak, right? It's going to come back down, but there's going to be initial buys once everyone sees that article, because it happens every time, right? Everyone's like, oh, well, we know it's coming, but until I see it, I'm not going to put more in, or I'm not going to do this. And then what happens? You're spending more money because you waited like everyone else.
You could see, like, you can gauge the amount of trauma somebody has by their belief in like, oh, until I see it, I'm not going to, it's like, oh man, what happened to you? Can I just give you a hug? Let you know it's going to be okay.
Who hurt you? Veve hurt me.
Where are the doctors that hurt you? Yeah. Oh, so I can't wait for it. And part of me really hopes that, Veve does start to not sell out like anything anymore, because that will be like, okay, now we can do marketing. Like, there's no need to market when the shelves are empty. Like, they already have enough demand. Yeah, go ahead, man. Get past 20K subs. Get it. So yeah, that's something I'm pretty bullish on in the future. And even from Star Wars, there's like Veve Fox had reported that there were 4,000 new accounts over Star Wars weekend. So I was like, oh, okay, well, we got a lot more active accounts. So after Comic-Con, pretty sure it's going to be something similar, if not more.
I'm really excited to see what happens in the next few months. Both, and I'm always trying to be a little bit careful about this, because I don't want to come off giddy about markets tanking, because people are like, wow, Taps, you want people to lose money, or you want unemployment? Like, I get it. And I'm not, like, selfishly, I like paying less for things, right? However, yes, I understand that this is having a huge effect on people around the world, and it sucks overall. I do understand that. But over the next couple of months, if we have more time, if we at least have a couple months, and I know we're going to stack more OMI, to buy collectibles cheaper. And it's those moves that really end up churning out the best results, whether it's 6 months, a year ahead. And that's why I look forward to these moves, right? Like, I was lucky. Well, I wish I grew up in a time like we've been in the past 2 years, like when I turned 20 and investing was cool and it was everywhere and you could do it in the palm of your hand. That wasn't my run, right? Like, I was never taught about investing. I learned it way later in life. And so when I started investing in 2018, not that long ago, I invested some money and then the market went down. And that was like the first big dip in a while. And I was like, cool, investing is not so cool. But then I learned and started researching, and the moves I did at the bottom in 2018 ended up making me money so I could reinvest, right? And then I did a bigger move in 2020. And that move kind of set me for where I am today, which is not, amazing, but I'm comfortable, right? So now we're getting that chance again. In this chance, it's not a V-shaped recovery, most likely, like what happened in 2020. There's going to be some time. So you have time to build up that dry powder, have that income coming in, and the investments that you make today and in this time, whether it goes lower or whatever, it's going to go back up. And that is where the most wealth can be generated, is in these times. And if this is a recession, it's the first recession in 14 years? And people who invested at the bottom in the last recession are super happy today if they held on and made the right investments, right? So I see this as a time of accumulation and in making the right bets.
Yeah, I've teased it before, and there's still no official announcement, but I've told people that I would come out of retirement for the right cause, for the right thing. And I think between things being down and getting a lot of offers, I think that time might come soon, where you might see Chavez working for at least a little bit. I don't want to sign like a 2-year contract with anyone, because then when OMI's 6 cents next year or whatever it is, and I have like $8 million, like I'm not gonna want to work. But yeah, I think I might go back to work soon to start try to smash that buy now button, smash that OMI button.
Appreciate it.
So I'll keep you all posted on that. But no.
Thank you for the super chat. Kobe collects in the house. Preach. Great work, gentlemen. Hey, Kobe, love your streams, man. You're doing all the giveaways you do. Absolute savage. Make sure you follow Kobe. I'm going to get to your question, Colin, but I did have I have a few other questions, and we'll keep addressing some of these questions in the chat. Thanks for being active in there, everyone. So I've saved this question for you specifically, and it's probably overly direct, but I know you can handle it. You've handled some of my direct questions in person. So crypto, blockchain technology, it's reshaping how people, technology interactions happen. It's pushing the dollar into a digital format, right? Like really a digital yuan, and several that's happening. But there are tons of crypto that are changing business, improving tech, and streamlining use cases for everyday needs. So why are you most bullish on a digital collectible company than other traditional crypto that have a broader effect in other businesses?
I mean, there's a bunch of reasons. It's not just like it's a new technology. Well, I mean, it's a very, very disruptive industry where, crypto is not new. Crypto's been around for a decade, but digital collectibles and NFTs, those are relatively new. But most of the NFTs out there, some of the artwork looks really pretty. Some of the artwork, and it's like, hey, I wouldn't mind having this as a painting in my house. There is something that I saw at VCon where it's like you could put your NFTs in this thing. It uploads to this picture frame, and that was really cool. But digital collectibles in general, like one of the biggest complaints I see is people's partners. They're usually their wives say like, you don't need any more collectibles. We have enough of them. It's taking up the house, and they only have a small amount. Or it's like, hey, I don't have any room for these collectibles, or hey, I have to have like millions of dollars in insurance on these collectibles. You don't, these don't take up space. You can buy as many as you want, and it's just chilling right here on your phone. So the disruptive in one way that they doesn't take up space, but also that you don't need to store them at any crazy temperatures. You don't need to make sure they're out of sunlight. And if you kick your phone out a window, your collectibles are fine. So there's a lot of good reasons for that. And also there's other things that are deflationary, but there's a finite amount of these, and it's deflationary on top of that, and it is held by people that are successful in so many other ways. This is just their next venture, and part of it is because they started to work on this, like 4 years ago, and I can't prove it. They'll probably never admit it, but I think that they had some help with psychedelics on this, because like that's how I saw it. Like I don't know if you ever see like Limitless, where they're like Bradley Cooper's like, it puts me 30 steps ahead of you. That's what it does. That's what Lucy does to me, where I feel like Doctor Strange, where I'm looking at 14,607 different scenarios. And one of the big questions that I had with this one guy that I met recently, I said, what are things that can kill the company? And honestly saying, like, it would only be like solar flare, alien invasion, World War III, like that. Those would be the only things. But as far as competition goes, there is none right now. I mean, there's other competition out there that is a very distant second, very distant third. But Apple and Amazon could fusion Ha, and they could buy up everything, and they still wouldn't come. Like if Pokemon decided to partner with a like an Apple or whoever, and they would be a direct competitor. Yeah, that would be a direct competitor. And Pokemon, and if Nintendo did that, they might win if they did that. But they would also most likely be a couple years behind, as to my knowledge from the that I know, that they're not 100% into that yet. Like to my knowledge, that they are. What I can say is that they would not do that themselves. Nintendo and Pokemon would partner with either like a, and again, they wouldn't partner with a Microsoft. They wouldn't partner with a Sony because they're just partner with Nintendo. They could make that themselves, but they're not yet. So I think that part of another part of the reason why I like these guys is because it's the most undervalued. Like most of the good projects out there are going to win. Like everything, that rising tide raises all ships. Everything's going to go up, but what's going to go up the most? Like in like 2020, when I see stock market like crashing, and okay, well, Square or PayPal. Okay, well, Square, has a lot more people joining every month, and it's a lot more. The market cap's a lot lower, so it has a lot more. Same thing with like Fastly versus Cloudflare. Okay, we'll pick Fastly, and so eventually I just consolidated everything into Tesla because that was most undervalued. But this is probably, in my opinion, the most undervalued thing out there right now. That is safe. I mean, there's things that can go stonks, that can go 1,000x in one night because it becomes a meme, but that's not safe at all. And nothing's safe 100%. But this is, only crypto associated with Disney is probably about as safe as you can get. So all of those things wrapped together is why I choose to be in this all in.
Great answer. And obviously I ask it just to kind of prod, right? Because I do invest in other crypto, and I am obviously a big OMI and VeVe bull, but I'm always curious, how, if someone all is into one thing, to understand their conviction around it. And I believe the same things that you believe, right? But I'm just kind of curious, like, to get your take on it. One thing that you said there is, you had someone on your podcast and they were talking about, what could kill VeVe. What's funny is I've been looking for ways to shoot bullets in VeVe since I first did a VeVe video, right? I was like, I'm really trying to find the chink in the armor that shows how they're going to lose since, March of last year. And they just keep getting stronger. And there's obviously FUD and there's issues that pop up. And those are usually issues that kind of, surface and then they go away. But the one thing that I feel like could really kill VeVe, they're actively going against doing it, which is over leveraging themselves with investments, right? They run lean. They work with partners, but they're not investing in a ton of technology. Like they invested in things to catch the bots and things like that because they had to, but they seem like they're very, very careful about where they put their money into, which is how you should be as a startup. Even if you crushed it in a year like this startup did, you still need to keep that run rate solid, right? So I think the only thing that could really kill VeVe is them running away with their own success and over leveraging themselves. And because, right, like now we're in a pullback. If they had just dumped all this money and we're going to do this and it's going to start to build out for the next year or two, and then we went into this phase and VeVe Collectibles aren't selling as much and all that, then they could be hurt. But they didn't do that. So that's the way I could see VeVe shooting themselves in the foot. But again, it hasn't happened because they seem very, very careful. And it's run by two people who've run businesses before, right? Yeah. They've had most likely failed businesses before and successful ones. So they know what works and what doesn't. So interesting to kind of speak about what could kill VeVe.
Yeah, I mean, you have to think about that. Because, or like, if you're just, and I think people like us would really try to scrutinize and really look for it more because, we have, that's the type of jobs we were in. We have a little bit of money to lose. Before you go all in, you want to make sure that we're good. You then probably microdose, you work for accounting. That's true. That's true.
20, yes. Potts Weber, thank you for the super chat.
Oh, that's my man, Potsy Weber. I haven't seen him in a while. We're buddies.
Filippo, what's going on? Filippo's a homie too. Yo, Johnny Dunn in the house on my way home from the course. Yo, I hope you hit him straight. Turning into some heavyweights. I agree. VeVe OMI is such a safe play. There's another huge OMI VeVe bull. So thanks for hopping in here, Johnny. What do you think the VeveVerse will be? Or sorry, when do you think the VeveVerse will be here realistically? Like, not, our homes, which is the first phase, which is what's aimed for the end of this year. But us doing this, us being in an actual metaverse, interacting, going for drops in like a little lobby area or plaza area, and how many phases do you think it'll be, and what do those phases look like?
Well, the phases can be indefinite. Like it's continuous downloadable content. That'll be forever. But probably next year. I mean, obviously we're getting the things, this year, the houses, but even just with the houses, they didn't, land's not coming till next year, but or the buying of land's not coming to next year. They didn't say that we wouldn't be allowed to explore. Hey, what is this? Where could this be? And I think that could still come this year. But as far as being in a lobby, and I mean, they still haven't announced that third game that's going to burn OMI. Like they partner with Fish and they partner with Epico Regal, but they haven't mentioned that third game yet. I'm really curious to see what it was. It is not Pixion Games. I thought it was their new I forget what it was called. They had a new game. It wasn't that though. So it's gonna be something else. So I think that would be next year. There was another part of that question outside of the timeline for VeveVerse and downloadable content.
I guess, what do you think the phases will look like, right? The VV Homes is the first one. I've had some people say, like, why would I be excited for an extended, better looking version of my showroom if that's what VV Homes are? And again, it's that short-term mentality, right? Where it's like, you build a foundation, it's still something that's stronger than your showroom and is interactive. Because right now you can show your showroom in a video, but I can't go into your showroom and play around with it or visit you or watch movies in it and things like that, right? So that's the foundation of where you start and then builds upon, right? So I guess, where do you think those phases look like? Speculative, obviously. So VV Home stage 2, phase 1, phase 2 looks like, phase 3 looks like, when can we buy land, so on and so forth.
So I think the next phase after phase 1, where it would be some light gamification. It would not take too much coding or development to be able to have like a mini racing game and I have outside of the super expensive Aston Martins, the ones that are like 2,500 and the ones that are like $1 million. I have the Ecto ones. I have the DeLoreans. I have the James Bond motorcycle. And I got that because I think that racing, even if VeVe doesn't do it themselves, you can drive around in the VeveVerse. People will do that by themselves. Somebody has plot of land, they have whatever, they'll make a racing game. They'll make Mario Kart with Ecto ones. And so I think that's really that light gamification will be in like the fit kind of, phase 2. I think after that you would have houses where I don't know if they were going to be able to if they're just going to be, okay, here's your generic house, and if you could build, how high you could build up. Because if there's things that can fly, like we have the Star Trek stuff, we have the James Bond stuff, we're at some point we're probably going to have Star Wars, like TIE fighters, X-Wings and all that. There might be a limit to how high you could build your house, this is perfect for VeVe. Because if you say, like, you just want to segregate, this is so racist, but if you want to be like, I want my Steve Rogers down on this level, and I want my Sam Wilsons up on this level, or you could just do like just Marvel versus DC. This floor is for Marvel collectibles. This floor is DC collectibles, and you could just have, okay, well, if we all just get a basic house, and you have to pay for a second floor and a third floor and a fourth floor, like that is just unlimited, untapped potential. But we don't know how high they can build, because maybe you can only build so high because you have to make room for the aircraft, and the rendering has to be so much that aircraft can only fly so high, or else you wouldn't be able to see it, and you want people to see people traveling.
What would be legit is they continuously say, like, they're collectors, they want VeVe to be an app for collectors, where, I mean, so far it's been obviously a huge flipping side, and like they ended up with the most money, obviously. But if you really wanted VeVe's core to be collectors, why not make the VeveVerse to where, in order to have a second house, you have to have 20 sets. Or a second floor, you have to have 20 sets. In order to have a third floor, you have to have 40 sets or X amount of collectibles. In order to have a a show comic case, you have to have at least 100 comics. Like little things like that would encourage buying into the app. And obviously you could spend OMI in there in order to do so. And maybe you get like a percentage lower than versus spending gems. And so you're winning both ways, but you're enabling the collectors through that side, right? Because VeveVerse it's metaverse. That is already, one of the biggest key terms for this entire past year and one of the most look forward to things. And you tie in the love of collecting into it. That would make sense to me, right? Is if in order to advance your gameplay or at least your ability in the metaverse, you're flexing, you have to have X amount of sets or X amount of collectibles or specific ones to travel to other places. I think that would be more ideal than, hey, it's going to cost you X amount of OMI to buy another floor.
And that goes with renting as well. Let's say there is a Star Wars land, and the only way you can get one is if you go there is if you have a lightsaber, you have whatever. Okay, well then you could rent, and they could do that with Mermacorno land. Like it's so strange how sometimes the funnest games have like the not so good graphics. Like all the old school games, the graphics were, they were in the 90s. They weren't that good. But let's say like the Mermacorno has just like the funnest games. That has the funnest metaverse. Fanny, I love you.
Fanny, my collectibles in the house too. What's going on, guys?
What's up? But there's another aspect of gaming. Like, let's say it's similar to Animal Crossing, where you have stuff on your land, on the house, and it spawns there every single day. And you have to go because again, they want people logging in. They want that time so they could sell ad revenue on like these billboards or whatever. And they could be like, okay, well, we have 1 million people coming in every single day. They can charge more. And maybe if you have people coming to your property, like if you have this big, amazing thing, you could also charge ad revenue for people, like whether it's Orbit Gum or people on my fridge. And they say like, well, you're only going to get a certain amount of these items to decorate your place with if you have a certain amount of collectibles. Or like in the Pokemon games, there's Pokeball items that you could find. But you could also buy an item, or you can buy an item finder. The only way to get an item finder is if you have like 50 Pokemon or something like that. And that helps you find invisible items. So they could do something like that where they could lock it where you need to have 50 collectibles in order to get that. Or you could just pay $20 worth of OMI to buy this item finder. And this way you can go on other people's property and you can get their stuff or invisible things. And if to incentivize people logging in every day, they can make it so that anyone can go on your property and they can get stuff like the items that spawn, and they'll, you'll still get 20% of those items, but they'll take 80%. And that's there's so many things that they could do, and that's not even including if there's like resources. Like the only way to dig underground is if you get. That'd be great if they had a Pokemon. The only way to build underground would be to get a ground Pokemon that knows dig. But they could be like, okay, you need this shovel, and in order, there's so many different things they can go. This is gonna be huge. Like, you can't tell me this isn't gonna make money.
Oh, 100%. And I'm right there with you. I mean, I've mentioned too, like I love Animal Crossing, and it's such a simple game, but everyone goes nuts for it. And then I like that I could add my friends on it and I could visit their world. But the only way I could go to their world is if they had an open, hey, anyone can pop in, but then they can take my stuff, or if they're on my friends list, right? So we already have people who follow us or like are added on the app, and that can translate over to the VeveVerse. And so what if that's what's needed, right? Is like, okay, me and Randy Chavez are friends, and then I just click a toggle and say, okay, we can visit each other's, VV homes and things like that. But then, yeah, I think the same thing where there's like little mini games, right? And there's not a set game that you necessarily hop into. But I remember the new Animal Crossing came out when we went into lockdown, and I played it like crazy. I went absolutely nuts. My girlfriend was like, God, I hate that you are playing this game so much with the super annoying music and all you do is catch fish. And I'm like, you don't understand, it's virtual crack. But I remember watching a YouTube video where this person they set out a bunch of chairs outside, and then they invited a bunch of friends over, and then they bet X amount of money, like in a bag. They threw the money in a bag down on the ground that you could pick up. And then they played musical chairs. So they clicked the album and it would play, and then they'd click it again. And then wherever it was, you had to click the A or whatever, and you sit down, and then you take away a chair. And I was just like, this is awesome that someone is designing their own games like that. And that's what happens. And you're right. You could do the exact same thing, even if they're not allowing you to race. it could be Grand Theft Auto style, right? You can create your own little mini games that way, or you could race your jets and things like that. But and then another Animal Crossing thing is people made a ton of money creating design templates on clothes, right? You could buy Link's design template and wear Link's outfit in Animal Crossing. The same thing where like little mini businesses could be created, whether it's Non-Fungible Wonderful doing mini concerts inside people's houses, right? Hey, it's Friday night. You want a Halloween party? We got Non-Fungible Wonderful, like little things like that, or people creating shops where they're creating like. All right, I'm getting moon boyish. I'm getting hyped up.
I'm not the only one, but I'll be putting on like again, people love to be entertained. I'll be putting on talent shows, or not me, but like people can put on their talent, and whoever the crowd likes the most, I'm going to give the winner some OMI. I'm going to give the winner a collectible or whatever, because that sounds freaking awesome. That sounds fun. I want to be remembered, obviously for animal conservation, but also that people just like, you know what, I was happier when I was around him. I was like, you know, so if I'm able to put on like these parties where people have good times and people make money just for doing what they love, I think that would be really cool. I think that people would love that. And it costs what? A small amount of all, like, you know, I have so much.
Can you please call your first large party in the VeveVerse Lucy in the Sky with Gems?
Okay. All right. Let me. I'll message you that, right? Just so I know it's there.
Just so it's written down.
Yeah.
Thank you for the shout out. Can this interview go all day? Hope so. Appreciate you. My collectibles. I got chemicals in my brain. All the endorphins are going nuts now that we're talking about the VeveVerse. Thank you for the super chat, Posky. Do you guys have any idea how many collectibles have been frozen by being on bot accounts, or what will be frozen or failed KYC accounts? That's actually a really, really good question. Wondering like 10% or possibly up to 50% plus on certain bot heavy drops. Randy, I want to get your take on this, and I'm going to speak to it too, because this is actually a really good question. And I've been kind of wondering around this too myself.
Yeah, the only thing that I could say is I think the amount of accounts that were frozen or like disabled, a lot of them are back now. And a bunch of whales buying. Which is, I can see people arguing about this in the future. Oh, like it must have been nice to buy when it was down low. I was like, okay, well, everyone had that option, but they're just gonna, you know, that money will go to the money that people are putting in. But I don't know. 50% seems like a lot, but we also had a ton of bots. So yeah. How many of those were given away? I mean, that I would love to see the data on that, and I assume Vivi can give that out at some point. How much because if suddenly you see a certain collectible, like let's say like the Omi friends, the Kongs, the Harambe looking things, there's only like 450 of those secret rare. If you see suddenly 300 are locked up, it's like, oh my god, those are stupid rare. You know, very, very scarce. Be a lot of arbitrage, be a lot of people buying in, but I don't know. Very good question.
And that's I'm wondering too is. So I think it's a really good question, because I've thought that too. And I'm wondering if it's somewhere around like 20% of certain collectibles, right? They were very careful with what they went heavy into, right? So they went heavy into Waltz and you know, Spider-Mans and several other things back in the day. And so some of those were taken, and some still actually probably weren't even caught, right? Some still probably got away, or once they started actually turning on, like going heavy on the bots, and they saw a bunch of friends getting their stuff banned, some probably bowed out, right, and sat on their gold mine and kind of waited until they can cash out, and then they're going to put it back in while it's down, right? Yeah. So some made out like kings on that, and some got caught and lost. But I do think that it's the visibility that we have on what the true amount of supply on some collectibles is really limited, right? We don't know how many there really could be that are locked up and or weren't confiscated and aren't going to come back into circulation. And or we also don't know how many exact Loki Gators Randy Chavez has, unless he shares openly, or Dr. Profit of his, you know, whatever he's collecting. He has like a ton of Waltz. So we don't, it's difficult, right? We don't know how much someone could stack up, or also how many have been taken away or just not going to come back in. So I think it's a good question, but there's no real way of answering it because there's not an open API into that specific area. I wish there was. That'd be crazy. But and then I think that would create a huge buy too.
I have 18 alligator Loki secret rares. I have 197 commons and 34 ultra rares.
I feel like you're just trying to create a gate, like Real Randy Chavez Gator Sanctuary in the VeveVerse.
Pretty much. That I might get a house. So there's something that I would love. I don't know if they'll do, but a lot of metaverses, I don't think they really have weather. I would really love to see like Swampland metaverse, and I could put my alligator Lokis, I could put my Throgs there. And if eventually we get Lion King stuff and we have like the desert, I would love to put like Mufasa and Scar and all the like in like a Pride Rock thing where it's snowing. I want Elsa to be like, let it go. Yeah, I would get different locations just so my this is how, like, I don't want to say stupid. That I want my NFTs and collectibles to be comfortable. I'm not going to put a alligator in like a desert. No, they need to be in like the mud and the cool where they can hunt. I want my collectibles, I want it to make sense. I want them to be comfortable. And I know that sounds really stupid, but I guarantee you there will be millions of people like me.
No, I get it. You're not going to put Elsa in the middle of a desert.
No, that's horrible.
It's brutal.
That's
collectible abuse. And I've always wondered too, I'm constantly looking at the umbrella of Disney licensing, and we've seen Fox with The Simpsons, we've seen Pixar, we've seen obviously Disney, we've seen Marvel, we've now seen Lucasfilms, but we still haven't seen like National Geographic, which maybe there could be a weather element there or some kind of environment for whatever's going to be. And originally I thought it would be for your vaults, but vaults are going to be only so interesting once the VeveVerse comes, and so maybe it could be tied directly to where you live, or you could turn on whether that's when you're walking around in your home, right? Or maybe it's something like wallpaper, kind of like in Animal Crossing. This keeps going back to Animal Crossing every time. And then I also wonder about this is actually a question I forgot to address earlier. Someone asked, what sports do you think, or the sports vertical, what sport do you think is going to drop on VeVe first? And we know that ESPN is underneath Disney, so I'm curious about that as well. But what do you think? Which sport would make sense to hit VeVe first?
I mean, we have the baseball stamp, so people could say argument. Well, we could have that. I mean, be a mini game. Yeah. Maybe it would be like broadcast. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen that video where this kid, he was living in like, it looks like my apartment. It's like there's a video being taken of him with his Oculus Quest on, and he's like, my friends make fun of my bed in real life, but not my bed in the metaverse. And the camera goes from watching him to what he's looking at, and you see him laying on his mattress, not like a real bed, but what he's looking at is like this beautiful like king size thing, and you see he's got a big flat screen TV in the metaverse where he's watching TV in the metaverse. So I think what they might do, like let's say we mentioned ESPN, is you might be able to in your home in the metaverse, in the VeveVerse, or in like a bar or wherever, you might be able to go and watch ESPN in your type of metaverse, like in that place. So I don't, as far as, so in that aspect, you could say technically all of them. You could go and you could watch everything from there. And I mean, I don't have a TV, so that'd be great if I could just do that. If I could just put on some eyewear or whatever. I mean, baseball is like maybe NASCAR. NASCAR is like the #1 sport, I think, in America. So NASCAR, baseball, probably.
And maybe Quidditch.
Oh, I mean, that's more big in England, but yeah, I'd say I would say, I can't. Oh, that's another thing. It's probably, I don't know if WB or Universal has a Harry Potter license. I know it's one of them, but that could be another.
WB.
I think that's another way that we can get a partnership. San Diego Comic-Con be like, but again, there's no like big Harry Potter stuff. One of the movies just came out. the Fantastic Beasts, but there's not a lot of hype around it right now. So maybe it wouldn't be that. But
yeah, I like what you said about the wearables and like being able to watch sports together. That's another thing they've said about Veve, right? Is like they believe in the future of wearables. They know they're going to tie that into the company. Right now, it's VR headsets, but they want that mixed reality. They want more of a layer on the real world. But that's kind of what I think about with VeveVerse too, right? Is how cool has it been to meet some of the fam, whether it was at the first decon or the decon kickoff party, or those who met up with people in their local areas to either go comic book hunting or watch the recent Jurassic World movie. Every experience where I've met people from the fam, who like people offline that I would have probably never met in person, just, in my day to day, has been really exciting and really cool. And it's, a lot of us are still kind of in this weird balance of working from home. Some of us, some are working outside of home, and some events are closed. People are going to events less. So I feel like some people are looking for this kind of ability to hang out while they're still in their own home, right? And there's also a ton of people who are introverts and just don't really do a ton of things. So, and like not hating on anyone who's an introvert, but I'm saying there's going to be an appeal to 100 people coming over to Johnny Dunn's Super Bowl party by special invite, where we're all wearing wearables and we're chilling on our actual couches, but we're sitting on Johnny Dunn's couch next to Todd and all these other people watching the Super Bowl. Like, I think of things like that and how appealing that's going to be broad term. And so, and I like how we started with like, what sport do you think? Let's talk about the VeveVerse some more.
Yeah, because I mean that would make sense. I mean, sports on the Veve app, like sports people. I don't know. I don't. But yeah, it would make sense that they would save things like that for VeveVerse. And I mean, if you have, I guess football is the biggest sport in the world.
Soccer, football is the biggest.
You got a hater. So I mean, if you have, I remember sometimes even like I love to party, but there are sometimes like even like in the military, hey, we're all going out, but there was such a cool conversation on Facebook going on, and I didn't want to leave it. Like, and I know like that's my introverted side, and there's hundreds of millions of introverted people, and that's just what people are going to be like. Oh, hey, I'm socializing, or even people that are like that get in the next 2 years. And they're not late to the game, but they're middle. People have gotten here already. They've heard of this stuff, and suddenly they realize that in this VeveVerse, they could have this amazing bed, and they could have this amazing thing because and maybe people are stuck, and they might be like, well, I'll never get this in the real world, but I can have this in the metaverse, and people are just gonna spend so much time there because it's like that episode of that '70s show. I don't know if it's Cheech or Chong. They're playing like the game of life. In that '70s show, and I think it's Cheech is like he's like a doctor in that game of life that they're playing, and they're like, oh, we have to go, we're doing whatever. He's like, oh, I like this life better, like because he's just like a drugged out hippie in his in the real life. So I think there's a lot of people that are gonna spend a lot of time in there, whether it's for sports, introvert. Yeah, I'm just super excited.
I am too, and that's a great point, right? And I know there's always like a little bit of, it's not the real world. So is it truly good for where the world's going? Right. But I mean, we just saw what happened when people were locked in their homes for a long period of time all across the world. It increased a lot of different negative things. And I think if you had the ability to escape, and it's your choice to do so, whether you want to live your life virtually or an extension of that and make friends outside of just, walking down the street and meeting with the same people. Like, I think it's good no matter where you go with it. And I think there needs to be parameters put in place for where it can go. But yeah, I'm super stoked to see where wearable tech's going to take us and seeing the added layers of virtual world meets real world. Thank you for the super chat, Golden Assets. Don't forget to stack Electras. Let's go. Awesome stream.
Did I tell you I ran into someone at VCon that had like 35 secret rare Electras? Yeah, the dude's like, oh my god, Randy, I have to show you this. Like, oh, hi, yeah, sure. And he's like, bro, you can't tell me they're not going to fix Electra. I was like, that they might. Like, yeah, yeah, that'd be good. And so he shows me 35. It's like, God damn.
I mean, it's not a bad investment, right? And I know that it's technically
The
be like,
first appearance.
dude, look at her face. It's a bad investment. but it's also super, super down because of the quality. It's not a good, that's actually a good point that he has that kind of belief that they could fix it, right? And they should fix it. But it's also been beaten down, right? So you're stacking something that's been beaten down. And the thing is, I think I want to be careful about how I say this because now I kind of want to buy Electras. There's going to be some people who come in from San Diego Comic-Con, and while they won't think it's the prettiest collectible, there's going to be Electra fans, right? So if you're buying, a common for $6 or whatever, it's super stupid low, then yeah, I guess stacking them would make sense. So not a bad thought, Golden.
Did you see that Deadpool auction yesterday? There was somebody that was selling like 60 common Deadpools, and they Veve University, Ava, she commented on my things like, thanks for telling me about this. I got one of these. I got 3 Deadpools. One of them she got for $7 because it was 60 of them going on auction, like one right after the other, 30 seconds,
Yeah.
And it was I was streaming and I was like, I'm gonna get back to these in a second. We have like a half hour, and then an hour later, like, oh God, I missed them all. I missed all the auctions. I couldn't buy any, but people were selling for so cheap because I guess it was a bot. Maybe he got them with bots. But yeah, so that's what I wanted to ask you. What you mentioned, like there should be parameters set in place, whether it's a good thing. What are your thoughts on the negatives of the metaverse at large and how our brains are developing? And it's not the same. Like the people that are like 15, 20 years old now, brains are completely different from people who are 60 years old because of the technology thing. A lot of younger people, they were born in it, molded by it. They didn't, weren't without tech that, until they were already adults.
We were born into it.
Yeah. So I guess you're asking what's the negative of having technology strapped to our faces a lot
or
more?
Is it a negative? I mean, it's changing, and human evolution is going in a different way, but is that change a good or a bad thing?
So I think it's both good and bad, right? Because I think about a couple of different things that are already bad. Like when you look at, let's say, America or US, right? I'm always careful to say America because North America has 30 countries in it. So USA has by far the highest amount of diabetes and heart attacks and overweight per capita, right? Like, and so if you now have the ability to strap technology to your face and live in another world, I see those numbers only increasing across the world, right? I think of Wall-E, where like you no longer have to get out and move, and yeah, you'll want to sometimes. Like I sit in this stupid chair all the time, whether I'm working Monday through Friday, tons and tons of hours, and then I'm researching and trading crypto and creating content for all the lovely people in here. Thank you all for joining again. But I love to still get outside when I can. I go into the gym when I can. My gym in my garage. I go for walks when I can. But just because of all of this and working from home, I definitely am not as active as I once was. I used to run a couple miles every single day, and I no longer do that. I no longer have the bandwidth to do that. And I definitely think I'm not anywhere near in the shape I was once before. So I think having a whole world that you can just strap to your face could have health effects that are bad. It could increase security issues, right? Like people, I was thinking of the virtual girlfriends who are not really girlfriends, but they're the scam artists, and they're trying to get some information and they're ripping you off, or they'll find out where you live. And what did that person say? Like drill through your feet or whatever. Yeah. Take all your crypto from one of your trust wallets, like, and then harassment. Like there's so many elements of negativity that will have to be figured out on it, but there's so many good things that can happen to it, right? It'll increase businesses. It'll make technology stronger. It'll increase social interactions. It'll create more gig workers to build business. Like, so it's double-edged sword, really long-term, and it's going to be worked out. There's going to be growing pains. And that's why when you look at the hype cycle of metaverse, it's still stupid early. And it's not going to be fully developed until 2030, probably realistically 2040.
That's a long time. You think with like Moore's law or with like technology doubling every like 18 months, you think it's going to be that long? And especially with the amount of money that's going to be in here.
Would you say the internet's already at its full development? 26 years later?
No, but again, it's evolving. It's a thing. I mean, I think that'll keep evolving forever, same as Web3. So I mean, but internet in 2010, 11, it was. I mean, I mean, the only thing that has changed about the internet in general is just the type of stuff we put on it. So I think the metaverse will be the same thing. It's like, okay, it's the only thing that'll change about it is the amount of things that you can do with it. But I think a lot of that stuff's going to be done pretty easily within the next 10 years. I hope. Maybe I'm just being a little moon boyish. A little naive that think that people can get that done. But you can always trust companies to do what's right by them and what's going to make them money. And this is probably going to make them money.
So, and I guess when I say 2040, I'm not saying we're not going to have a robust metaverse until then. I'm saying to where it's every single, like when I think of Ready Player One, I don't really think it'll be like that scale by 2030. I think we'll have really robust metaverses, by like 2028 and 2020 and 2030, but where every single person has, well, for the most part, has adopted it. And you're walking down the street, you have, let's say, like Black Mirror, like contacts or whatever. You have your Neuralink if you're going to let Elon in your brain. And you're just seeing overlays of a metaverse over the reality, right? Over your everyday, like that level, I don't think could happen until, well after 2030. But so let me just say that, I guess.
That makes sense.
Someone asked about Bill. What's up, Bill? Love Bill. How about the I Am Your Father's Day announcement? While we were streaming, they announced another comic, by the way, an actual legit one, it looks like.
Yeah, that was the Star Wars I Am Your Father thing.
No, there's a Torment arc of Spider-Man comic.
Oh, that one, yeah.
Todd McFarlane. 5 days, 5 drops. Holy crap!
The one every day. I love those. One of the reasons that one of the things that I was really nervous about in the future was that if they were to do like Jonathan Hickman's like what was that? Secret Wars, or if they were to do the Civil War comic books. There's so many volumes. Like, oh, if we only get some of those, I would really want us to get the full thing. I'm not expecting tie-ins or anything, but I would really love to get all of those in my collection because those are so cool.
Yeah.
Your daughter could probably build a. I mean, there's probably going to be different architects for the metaverse, like these cool and crazy designs that that work only because it's not bound by physics. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's crazy to see, where the main, and that's another thing that, I mean, we just keep going back to the VeveVerse, but when you think about what a successful metaverse looks like, and obviously there's only centralized right now and decentralized, and really not a mix, a hybrid, which is what I think the VeveVerse will truly be. And so when you look at the success of Roblox and you look at the success of Minecraft and creating like wealth for kids and teenagers and building businesses and while they're all having fun, that's the biggest importance, I believe, is it has to be accessible to all, which we talked about, which VV will be, and you don't need a MetaMask to figure it out, but also it has to be fun. And the sandbox I've played around with a little bit, and it's fun because it's very much the crypto version of kind of like a Minecraft, right? Decentraland, I just didn't have fun. And when you look at their user base and compare it to VV, we're dwarfing them, absolutely dwarfing them. We've always been dwarfing them for the past 9 months, but it has to be fun. And so I think that's going to be important for the VeveVerse. And I think already having the major IP that people relate to, it's fun to have a Vader collectible, right? It's fun to have Disney collectibles, and like everyone understands it. So now if you have the ability to run around in a world where you can be Vader, you can be Mickey, right? Like little things like that, that's fun. And then you have games and you have this community where 170 people can hop on a stream and watch two guys talk about hopes and dreams with investments and collecting. And that's just going to be expanded. Right. And that's why we keep coming back to it, but I'm just so excited for what's going to happen, what's going to evolve, not only with Veve and VeveVerse, but with us as a community and how many more people are going to fold into it.
Yeah. And this is right now with no marketing. Like this is like, you know, you've caught glimpses of it before at Decon, both Decons, you know, people buying us beers and doing whatever, having signed, you know, making us feel like celebrities, signing shirts and all that. There's a very good chance that in the next year you get up to, like, you know, as they market, well, who are people going to, I don't know, YouTube's a wealth of information. You're probably going to get like 100,000 subscribers, and I'm hoping to get like 30 to 50, give or take, as they market, because, you know, they're going to go to us. How do you plan to balance everything? How do you plan to go and be like, you know, instead of just having 100 comments on your videos, suddenly have like 3,000? Like, oh God, you know, would you hire someone and be like, hey, just answer all this for me? Just type in okay and smiley face.
No, that's funny, is like, I mean, I've already felt it, right? Like I made this job change. You know, I was pretty secretive early on. And actually, real quick, I wanted to answer Bill. Bill asked Taps, I still haven't heard what plots you picked up in Illuvium. Bill, do me a favor. If you can, shoot me a message on Twitter and I'll tell you. After I got sniped on that last one I didn't complete, I was pissed. So I didn't share what plots I have publicly because I don't want someone to snipe that sniper. And then I have to keep going. And then I keep having to pay to try to get this thing. So go ahead and message me on Twitter. But what was I saying? Oh, you were asking about like, how do I plan to manage when it gets absolutely nuts and we see. So I made a job change and I loved what I did. You know, I worked for Gartner. I was on the I had clients that I still can't say because of NDA, who they were in augmented reality tech. They were in crypto. And one was even kind of metaverse related. And one was wearable. So like I got to be on the forefront speaking with them about their growth, how they plan on building out, getting to see their technology. And that was amazing. I loved that. The only reason why I made a change, and I actually had the time to balance and do VV videos, you know, a couple times a week. So it was great, but I made the change because the job offer that I received was a significant amount of money. And so at this time, as a big change in, I guess, the gap. So I saw that as, I know I'm gonna have to work harder at this job and have less time for some of the stuff that I love, but I'm going to be able to take those gains. I believe we're going to go into a down market recession, which, surprise, surprise. And I saw that as I'm going to have more income coming in that I can invest during a down market. And so this isn't my forever job, and it'll hopefully propel me into a point where I'll be able to do YouTube full time in a couple of years. And so in the interim, when things do go crazy, and my girlfriend's constantly said this, she's like, you work insane hours. Like the time you put in, she's like, I don't know how you balance it all. And as your channel grows, you're not going to be able to, like, still at, 19,400 subs. I try to answer every single comment, like personally, not just a like, but try to answer every single comment. And I want to do so because, again, the goal wasn't to be the biggest channel. The goal was to have the best community. And that's still important to me. So as the channel grows, I never want to lose that. And I'm definitely going to probably, if it did go to 100,000, hopefully one day, I'll have to bring on an admin who can help me. But I never want to lose that touch. I never want to not feel connected with my subscribers and the community. And so, we'll see how it goes when we get there. But hopefully when we get to that stage, I'll be further along with my investment journey and I'll be able to not have to put as much time in. And also as a new job, right? So I had to grind to make sure I could hit deadlines and all that. So eventually, hopefully that'll lessen up a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be difficult to balance it all, but I don't think anyone at least us, like either you do YouTube because it's your passion and you're covering something that you're passionate about and you can manage it, or it's something that you do because you're passionate about it and you don't really care where the money's at right now. And I think I'm on that second half right now, right? The money's not significant for the hours I put into it, but I love it. I love doing it. So eventually, if it could become something that could sustain me full time, that's the absolute dream.
Yeah, agreed. What I wanted to do, I feel you on getting started. I was stuff in Earth 2 where I was trying to build like a mega city and I was trying to make like the longest road on this biggest mega city in Earth 2. People kept like seeing where I'm buying and buy like around me. I was like, guys, I'm trying to do something.
You're like trying to get the longest road in Settlers of Catan.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, I did that in Earth 2. I have the longest mega city, the longest road in the mega city, and I think in VeveVerse, are you gonna tell people where you're buying, or are you gonna keep you gonna you look, because I know that same thing is gonna happen. People are gonna buy around where you're gonna buy around, and you're not gonna be able to buy these massive plots.
There's no way of really building a strategy around land in the VeveVerse yet because we don't know what it's going to look like, right? Like I own land in a couple different places, and like it would make sense if it's randomized, right? But maybe depending on how much OMI you're staking, maybe you have the ability to grab in 4 plots, right?
Yeah.
Instead of 1 plot. And so it's a connected plot, like a mega city. Or you have the ability to get in and buy land a minute before everyone else. So that way you can build things out. So if that did happen, I think they'll probably allow some kind of ability to buy like different tiers. If they did it exactly how Illuvium did it, that would be awesome, right? Because they had 5 different tiers. The 5th tier was like unaffordable, where it's $500K, $1 million for 1 plot. There's only 2 of them.
God damn.
They haven't even dropped them yet. So there's still more land to be done in that first sale. But they did, was it 3 days? Yeah, 3 days of in different tiers dropping every hour, and like set amount of tiers. And people were scooping them up at different prices. And they did the Dutch auction. So some people overpaid. Some people got it real cheap. I got mine really cheap because I was patient. But they were sporadically. So you had to watch 1 hour if you wanted this plot. And then if you wanted the next couple that were around you, you had to see, all right, that one's not dropping for the next 16 hours at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm at the wake, and like, you never know, I'm probably going to have to overpay. So I beat someone out because they're going to try to grab it because you can see they have 2 other, like, it was crazy. And then it was all done on Immutable X too. 0 issues. And there was like the amount of gas that was spent was an absolute fraction of everything else that's ever been done on like it was the cleanest land sale I've ever seen. And it was phenomenal. So I think the VeveVerse would be done similarly, whether it's you buy a bunch of plots or maybe you're not just buying 1 plot, it's tiered, right? This tier 1 is 1 plot, tier 2 is 4 plots, tier 3 is 8 plots, and so on. Tier 4 has an advertisement billboard that you control on. That's the other side, right? Is if you can buy a plot with a billboard and then you're like, hey, Decentraland, it's X, and I'll promote you on my billboard. That Real Randy Chavez already does this on his fridge, right? What happens if you can buy a billboard attached on your property? Like, yeah. So that was a really long answer to your question. If I'm gonna let people know where I'm buying.
Oh, that's great. So do you have to KYC your account before you buy the land for Illuvium?
Decentralized. So no.
So you bought 1 plot of land, but then you said other people could see that you bought that. So that's why they can buy right next to you, right?
So it's all tied to MetaMask. And so it was, here, I'll just show you real quick. So it was all done via MetaMask, right? But they have something called the Illuvidex, like the Pokedex. And basically it was this huge, huge world where essentially, and I'm not going to click on which one I'm in.
Yeah.
Go ahead and move off there. So each one of these are plots, right? And they sold 20,000 of these. And so basically, if you want to create a mega city, it had to be at least 4 conjoined, right? And you get to share resources across the board on it. It's just the right way to play. But if I click, so if I'm going for one of these lands, let's say I have these 3 and I want to get this one, I can see I can't see who the owner specifically is, but I can see their MetaMask account, right? So if I click into those other three, you'd be able to see my MetaMask all ending in the same or roughly the same amount. So you can see who controls all of them, right? So yeah, so you don't have to KYC or anything because it's all tied to MetaMask, but you do have the ability to directly see what the numbers are, ending numbers and beginning numbers, right? So you can see who's building up for what the last one sold for. The strategy around this, I spent hours on my strategy on this and I still got sniped.
So it would make sense to, if you could wind the clocks back to be like, okay, I'm going to have 3 different MetaMask accounts. So I could buy, one of each. So this way people think, oh, they're not trying to get the monopoly here. So I'm just going to, so that would be the move, right?
Yeah. This entire sale was crazy. Like I did like this kind of thing where you use a different token called SLV2. So I bought it way when it was cheap, which is it's 1-for-1 for ILV. So I had more buying power with less money. And I bought my tier 1 land for 0.3. And now it's at 0.43 ETH. But essentially I bought it for probably about 0.14 ETH. And I could now sell it for triple at floor price in a bear market. And that's just the tier 1. I have a tier 3, a tier 2, and a tier 1. So it was a good move for those who did that. Nice. Even if you didn't do that, they're still way up from those who didn't. But yeah, I would love to see Immutable X and VeveVerse land drop done. It's going to be obviously on Immutable X, but I would love to see it in a similar fashion because Illuvium crushed it with that land drop. Like it was so stupid clean. Even people who have done other land drops, whether it's, they have land in Axie or they got some of the Bored Ape land with other deeds. Everyone was just blown away with how well it was done. So I would love if VeveVerse did very similar style.
I'm glad to hear that because land in Earth 2 is always like it. Well, one is when the servers were that, like it used to just crash, but everyone was going. They would open like a random country. And then everyone was going for like the center, same class land, and you just couldn't buy it. It was insane. It was nuts. But yeah, I would really like a clean. I've never had a clean land thing.
Earth is Earth 2 still pretty brutal to buy land?
Oh no, I mean now it's because they when they open a new country, yeah. But now it's so they did this thing where I think they sold after like I don't know, like 60 or 70 million tiles or whatever. They said, okay, well, this is all tier 1 land. And then they said, like, now everything's going to reset. Everything's going to be going back down to 10 cents a tile now for the unbought land. And this is tier 2. So now that they've just sold their 100 millionth tile a couple weeks ago. So it'll be that they'll sell a little bit more and then they'll do tier 3 land. But so any land that's unbought, like all the first land that's bought is tier 1. But there's different classes too. So like there's the first 100,000 tiles in a country are considered class 1. And that gives you the most resources. That'll give you the most ether. Ether is something that you can go and transform into essence. So while most people have like a couple hundred essence because most people didn't get in December 2020, like I did, most people got in at some point last year, X amount of months later. So they were getting a bunch of tier 2 and tier 3 or tier 4 land. And I bought a bunch of tier 1, class 1, tier 1 land. And so I'm getting like, I don't know, like 40 essence a day. So like I said, that's why I have like the 37,000 essence. Most people don't have that. So the land is, you can get it now wherever, but if you're just going in, buying all willy-nilly, you're not going to get a ton of perks like the resources. Although they're releasing resources now, and in the Midlands in Zimbabwe, you can get land for, and it gives you gold and it gives you ore. So you're going to be able to get 2 things, like a 2-for-1. And I think that's the only one. So I spent a couple hundo yesterday on that, on the land in Zimbabwe.
Awesome. We've been going a while, Randy. I have one last question for you. And at some point, I want to do it's going to have to be like something big tied to VV. I want to do a 24-hour stream where I have you hop on and other content creators and random people. And someone did that for the Illuvium stream, and it was such a blast. I just left it open while I was working all day and listening to Alpha, and it was super cool. Like he took a nap in his bed behind my buddy Scoriox. He took a nap, and let other streamers run the channel for like an hour or two. And then he hopped back on and slammed a rock star and kept going. Super cool. I was like, I think I could go 24 hours with a nap, and I would have like a yoga session and just stretching. But so anyways, if you could give 2 pieces of advice for everyone watching here, 1 investment knowledge and 1 personal knowledge, what advice would you give?
The investment thing, I might have to be 2 pieces, because if it's, if you're married with kids, and if you have things to lose, then you really have to be careful. Well, I mean, you could decide not to be careful and YOLO it, and then, well, your kid and partner will probably have a hard time if you lose it all. But that builds character. The whole conversation that could happen. So you tend to have to be really careful and only invest what you're afraid to lose. But if you're young, if you're like in your 20s and you got really nothing else going on, if you're not married, even if you have a significant other, I would only date someone that understands why I do the things that I do. I don't care how hot, how smart. I mean, generally if they're smart, they would understand. I mean, you find out where, work as much as you can, build up as much money as you can, and invest everything that is not going to build. How I, became a millionaire in like 4-ish years, or 4 years was not by working 8 hours a day and, taking off 2 days a week. I was working every day, and it was that aged me. So you will sacrifice your health, you'll sacrifice relationships, you'll sacrifice whatever. But if you want to make money, you should be minimum working 60 hours a week, and you should be investing in good projects. Go all in. Don't, when your account goes red, don't fear it, embrace it, and you can do that. Find out where you want to, because some people can work 100 hours a week. I can't. I can do like 70, 80-ish. But some people, that might be too much. So find out where your limits are while you're young, because if you don't do that now, there's a potential that you might have to do that in the future. And when you go to dig down, you realize there's not much there and you can't do it. Suddenly you're 10 years older and it becomes way, way worse. As far as personal advice, this is what Lucy has taught me, is that when you're in that altered state, when you put, that fantastic, beautiful substance, which total not medical advice, but we put it in your body, just war seems crazy and fighting seems crazy, and just being mean to someone just seems nuts. I don't know. I think of when you're happiest, what does that feel like? What caused you to be happy? And then I don't know, you kind of want that for others. Some people don't treat themselves nicely. Some people kind of treat others nicely. And I think you should treat yourself or others like someone that you love. Like, treat yourself the same way that you would treat your dog. You don't want your dog to eat crap. You want your dog to eat like Buffalo Blue, Iams, Eukanuba, Science Diet, whatever. You're not going to feed your dog McDonald's because they, all the time, because they'll get fatter, and their lean counterparts tend to live 2 to 2.5 years longer than their obese counterpart. I don't know. I know I sound like such a hippie, but just love people, man. Just give them the benefit of the doubt. Like, just be the bigger person, and just if they're insulting you or whatever, just be like, okay, don't add more. Don't add more fight. That'd be it.
Well said. So, I mean, for all crypto, NFT, marriage, hallucinogenics, non-financial advice, please check out Real Randy Chavez. I mean, it's been like 8 months, I think, since the first time we ever streamed. And then we've been to 2 events with each other. I think it was so funny, dude. I think it was so funny because I was like, oh, I think I asked you, like, are you going to go down to the thing in SoCal? And you said no. And then randomly, like a week maybe before, you're like, hey, you're going to this, right? I'm like, yeah. You're like, you already have a hotel? I'm like, yeah. You're like, you have an extra bed I can crash in? I'm like, this is just a thing now where it's like, I'm gonna get a hotel, and then you're gonna be like, hey, you have an extra bed, so I know now to book two beds every single time for sure.
So the hotel that I'm staying in San Diego is booked. Just letting you know. Now I don't know if there's one bed or two, so I'm just putting that out there. We'll put some pillows down the middle. But yeah, so dude, I love you, man. Like I love hanging out with you. So I want to do a 24-hour stream if they partner with Pokemon and Nintendo when they announce that full on 24-hour stream. I'm totally gonna do that. But I'll totally be doing that on Lucy. But I did that by myself, like 16-hour one. That was hard. But yeah, 24 hours if you have, we could do that. Let me know when you want to do that. And I'll totally come on for a while.
Awesome. Yeah, I think like you said, like I wouldn't want to do it at the same time as you. And I think if and when Pokemon's announced, I think between you and Kobe and some other like diehard Pokemon, like that's your guys' game. I grew up playing Pokemon, love it. Maybe I would do one for like Dragon Ball Z or I don't know, something like create like something that's specific to me, right? Like I'm a huge anime nerd, something like that. What's up, Dino? See a whole bunch of people hopping here. Like they're loving your message, man. They're like saying the love. They're calling us bromance. Thank you so much, Fun Under the Sun, for the super chat. 2 awesome superstars. Snuggle time from Maka. Love it. I was already going. Oh, so it looks like Dino's going to SD. One bed is fine. Oh yeah, they say 2 beds, but we all know it's 1 bed.
Do we have video evidence of the 2 beds in Anaheim in the DesignerCon party?
We got receipts, bro.
I know there's a video of you twerking out there that I took, but I think you only see 1 bed in that video. I don't know if you see 2.
Oh man, let the bromance FUD start. Yeah, man. So we've been going strong for just about 2.5 hours. So any last minute questions for everyone while you have Real Randy Chavez and myself together, besides us drunk talking into the camera on Real Randy Chavez's, which could possibly happen next month. We'll see. I don't know. Where are you buying tickets? Like you got them off like Ticket Hub, or like basically people who are upselling them, right?
Yeah, that's the only place. Like I've looked in these Facebook groups. I've looked in the other groups like that go to Dragon Con, New York, like the con people. It seems to be, it would only be like, I don't want to buy off like Craigslist. It would be like StubHub, Ticket Hub or something like that. But I do have an idea. I'll talk to you off camera about it. So yeah, that'll be, also, the Fish fam says hi from
Fish fam.
Make
sure if you have Fish and you love Fish, like we all love Fish, make sure you are tomorrow in the Fish Court and paying attention to what Brock is doing, because he is doing a ton of giveaways tomorrow, which is super exciting. So there's also Frogland Land, which is dropping. I minted them and they're up. Like they've done really, really well. There's a bunch of fam who has Frogland NFTs. So, and then we also have the Jurassic Park Blue, right? The Raptors drop tomorrow. So tomorrow's gonna be an exciting Saturday. So everyone, thank you so much for joining the stream. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you follow Real Randy Chavez. And thank you so much for the time, Randy. You know, I've put some of your info into the details of the video. I think everyone already follows you or knows where to find you. But do you want to let them know?
At Real Randy Chavez on Twitter, the Real Randy Chavez on YouTube. That's about it. That's fine.
There you go. Awesome. Well, again, man, from the bottom of my heart, love spending time with you. Love seeing you in person or even on stream. And I think the fam just, you know, they want more of the bromance. I think that's the way.
We've got to give it to them. Like that's one of the things in cosplay where I was like, I don't know if you watch Ruby, but there's this character called Crow who's like an aging alcoholic and he's pretty lean. So I was cosplaying as him, and people ship him and this guy Ozpin. Thankfully, I didn't run into any Ozpins while I was cosplaying as Crow. But like when I cosplay, it's like whatever the people want. If you want, I'll do it. If you want a kiss, if you want, I'll do it. I'll make your ship sail.
Are you going to cosplay for San Diego Comic-Con?
I'm too like fat to be lean, and I'm too scrawny to be jacked. So I can't, man.
No, come on. The whole point, dude, I first cosplayed when I was 17 years old. I was a twig. Like people constantly ask me if I was anorexic. I was super insecure about my body. I just could not gain weight. And I was just basically, I looked like I was soaking in clothes all the time. And I went as Sid Valentine from Final Fantasy VII. I had to have my cousin buy me Lucky Strike cigarettes to put in my my goggles, my armband, because I wanted it to look authentic enough. And when you go to a con, whether it's San Diego Comic-Con, an anime convention, whatever, it doesn't matter how you look. But when you cosplay, it's a whole nother experience. And I guarantee you, if you cosplay, you're not going to care about what your weight situation is or if you're jacked enough. You're going to care about the fact that you're cosplaying and able to interact differently with other people.
Oh, so like I get it. I'm a casual cosplayer,
Yes.
and I but I got really jacked for that, and I'm a total proponent of people saying, hey, anybody can cosplay, and it's meant for fun, and I agree 100% it is. But for me, I feel not as good. Like if I were to be that size of Spider-Man, I don't think it would have worked out. So I got really, really lean a few months later, and I cosplayed as because I mean, that's just my own personal thing. Yeah, that's okay.
There's mine.
That's amazing. Oh, you're ripped AF in that one. Are you Ichigo?
Where?
The red hair. Where you're
I'm Hisoka from Hunter x Hunter.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. I've shrunk down from what I used to be, but yeah, dude, I freaking love cosplaying. And again, like I've been doing it for well over a decade now, and if I see you next month, then I'm gonna have to build out. It's not gonna be anything crazy. I love it. Yes. It's not gonna be anything crazy, but I'll definitely be cosplaying. I might have to rewear something, or I'll have to make something really, really quick. But we'll talk offline. Maybe I'll get you to do something.
Okay, yeah.
If I go.
Everyone say bye-bye to Dashi. Bye-bye, Dashi. Bye, guys. Meow.
Bye, Dashi. So again, thanks everyone. Thank you, Randy. Thank you, Sir Dashi. And appreciate it, fam. We will see you later and see you on tomorrow's drop.